Good to see you, everyone. My name is Robbie Howell, and as has become the custom, I am here with three fine friends, three fellows who I can highly attest to the quality of, and who I greatly look forward to seeing play today. Let's have them introduce themselves in the same order we discussed. Fire away.
Hello, my name is David Torres, aka Detour, and I am a board game designer, and I have an active Kickstarter. You can find it. It's called Scrapbots.
Woo! Excellent. And next.
I'm Jim, also known as the Old Warlock. We run a YouTube channel that looks at a variety of board games, RPGs, and so on. Tonight, I will be playing a gunslinger by the name of Sloan. That this is his second mission this evening, so I'm looking forward to getting Sloan back on track.
Marvelous. And lastly.
I'm Jay Moores. I'm the creator of the RPG Fae, as well as I've been in the comic industry for the last 20 years. Please check out my stuff when you get a chance. But right now, we're checking out this stuff by Robbie. I am playing Trezden. He is a Thunderbird, and he is clearly the best person here, and he knows it. So good luck, everybody else in the party.
Perfect. Couldn't ask for better. All right, friendos. I have your focus words. You've given them to me already, and I already have an idea of what I'm doing. But while I'm finishing up the generation, what I'm going to ask for you to do is to introduce to yourselves and to viewers your characters. You can go into more detail than you did thus far. Can talk about your stats if you want, item choices, anything else that you care to mention. You can go in the same order that you just did, and hopefully by the time you're finished, I will have a mission ready for you. Okay, fire away.
Cool. So I will be playing a recently introduced class to the game called the Berserker. And the Berserker, much like it sounds, is a extremely combat heavy class. So my character's name is Goroth. He is a member of an orc-like race that I call Akruts. He has ash gray skin, tusks, a mohawk sort of shock of black hair. He's 6.5 feet tall, extremely muscular but toned, and he's about 19 years old. Um, Lore-wise, he comes from a tribe of like forest-dwelling hunters. They hunt like giant beasts. So imagine something sort of monster hunter-ish. So stat-wise, I took the 2 points in might, 2 points in vigor, and a point in resilience and a point in reflex. So he is very fast, very strong, and rather agile.
So as I mentioned, tonight I'm going to be playing Sloan, who is a gunslinger. He is a burned out bounty hunter. The reason that he got into being a bounty hunter is something that not a lot of people will find out about, but you will get hints about that possibly as the night progresses. He also used to be a circus performer at one point, doing trick shots. Sloan's his best skill is skill, with three pluses in that particular category. He does like to talk his way through things as much as anything, but is not averse to doing trick shots whenever they're necessary. But a little bit of in terms of his description, it's difficult to even get a good read on Sloan's face because of some of the things that he wears, particularly his duster, which gives him some magical abilities in terms of remaining anonymously viewed, if you will. So the description of Sloan is one that a lot of people will get for short periods of time and then, oddly enough, forget. So we'll see where Sloan goes tonight in terms of carrying on as a burned out bounty hunter.
Trezden, as I said before, is a Thunderbird. He dresses in a very red, flowy cloak. He wears a carnival type mask. And he's instead of carrying a thunder hammer, he has a thunder gauntlet, which he wears.
Oh, that's sick.
He is new to this kind of an adventure. He's been invited in because he feels definitely more than worthy of doing it. He's very theatrical. He expects ooh and ah from the people as he makes things explode. He has had issues in the past with places he's been and big marks he's left behind on architecture and stuff like that. Generally, his showmanship can be rather financially destructive. So he finds himself moving from place to place, bowing audiences, and then proceeding to flee from the premises.
Excellent. Great descriptions. I think I have something for you. So if you're ready for your mission statement, this is going to be quite a different one from what Sloan faced last time, at the very least.
All right.
As always, everything I'm about to share with you is known in character, but you can ask any questions that you have entirely out of character. The answers to those questions will still be known by your characters all in full. You are being sent to an active city siege. It is a massive
Nice.
battle that has been taking place now for multiple days. The city in question is called Kerevang and is holding out against a massive incoming horde called the Searsign. And the Searsign typically run these hordes in many parts of the world, and it is always in pursuit of food. They come from a very inhospitable land, and their people are cursed to never be able to grow food for themselves. And so they are doomed to plunder wherever they go. Now, in this particular case, you are going to be hired to work for the Searsign themselves. Reason being is that trying to get through these damn walls has been much harder than they are normally accustomed to. They have great war beasts, fearsome warriors, but they have met their match in the crafty inhabitants of Kerevang, and they have not been able to breach its gate. That is until their hotshot young field commander, a man named Lears, tried to charge it himself on the back of his massive Howdah-mounted warbeast, only to be brought down in the field. But he is still alive. You're going to be ported in on top of his warbeast with him. It's huge, by the way. Think Mumakil in Lord of the Rings. And your goal is to get the enemies that are currently keeping him back off of him and cover him so that he can get through and bash in the gate with his warbeast. That is your only goal. Questions? That's a good sign.
There'll be a million
really
as we
bad.
go, but
I have no questions.
technology level of
Awesome.
the people.
So there's a technology discrepancy here. The Searsign themselves are lower tech. You can think of them like maybe even Copper Age, but definitely they have a lot more going for them than their raw technology. You can think of them as almost Conan-like barbarians in terms of their power and their force of will, not to mention some amount of magic, though Lears himself does not have any. Though it's their war beasts that typically rule the day in these sort of battles. The Kerevang, on the other hand, are substantially more sophisticated. You can think of them as like an early Iron Age style society, decent amount of magic, also a fair number of animals at their disposal. But in their case, their magic is one of their greatest assets, though not typically in the ways of war. Typically in a more societal manner. They will likely still likely be fighting some amount of mages, but don't have to worry about them as being the prime issue in most cases. Other questions?
How was our client taken down?
That's an excellent question as well. Your client was taken down, as the Kerevang have proven very apt at doing, through subterfuge. Reason being is when he first charged, his gigantic war mount passed through, many sieges have series of ditches leading up to them. And in his case, he passed through a ditch which, unbeknownst to him, had a host of tamed animals inside, in this case a species of snake, that managed to inject enough venom into the feet and legs of his warbeast that it was temporarily paralyzed, allowing Kerevang soldiers to climb onto it and try to bring him down. The beast will throw off these wounds quite soon, but not if the soldiers climbing it can just cut it apart in the meantime.
So did the
What's
beast
our client's
get
name
through?
again?
Oh, pardon. What was your question, Detour, then, Jim?
Just what was the client's name again?
His name is Lears. And Jim?
Did this creature, this war beast, did it manage to get through this ditch? Is it out of the ditch and
Yes, it
beyond at this
is. It
stage?
is out of this particular defensive ditch, and on the other side, there are still a handful of layers of defenses, and most notably, the caravan have regained enough ground that they have actually stationed some soldiers outside of their walls again. They've
So,
pushed the horde back a little ways away so that they're no longer completely stuck behind their defenses.
but at this point, we're being ported in. How far is it to the gate from that spot?
In terms of total distance, still pretty far. We're talking like quarter mile. But
Okay.
in terms of this war beast, it can cover that distance quite fast. Any final questions? Excellent. In that case, we're going to move to assembly. Your characters are brought together in character at Enclave HQ. This is not on the mission yet. Things here are completely safe. Into one of the Enclave's beautiful, ornately furnished meeting rooms that always has what you need while you're awaiting, but is only ever decorated in shades of gray. As of now, you're in character, but of course can, out of character, describe what you're doing, of course, and ask me questions and ask for clarifications and similar. And you're going to have a few moments in character for your characters to meet, discuss what's going on, and then you're going to get straight to the mission. If you have no other questions, let us say that it begins with Sloan and Goroth, with Trezden entering shortly thereafter. Fire away.
I'm not going to be saying anything to anyone to start off with. I just want to go over my gear one time to make sure that I have plenty of ammunition for both my firearms. Anything else that I think I might need for the mission, I want to just ensure to myself that I'm fully prepared to get going on this particular mission.
Absolutely. Ammunition counted, guns oiled, hat creased, things in place.
There we go. Okay.
Goroth.
Goroth would probably walk up to Sloan, looking him up and down. So, are you a warrior?
Well, I reckon I'm a little bit of a warrior. I've been through a scrap or two. Yourself? Looking
Goroth
back
is
at him,
clearly armed to the teeth.
but I say that specifically just to just as a measuring up device.
I've killed many.
Well,
May the hunt be honored with your death this day.
well, that's the way it turns out. That's the way it turns out.
Indeed.
I will turn to look for our third member if they're there.
Indeed. It would be at this point that Trezden pushes into the room.
I step in loudly. I let out a loud, "Hello, my beauties. Are we ready to have some fun?"
Robbie, do I
It's
know
flapping in the
either?
wind. There seems to be a perpetual wind around me. Like, even if there's no wind in the room, the cape is always aflutter.
Indeed.
Feathers along the collar, ruffled, iron gauntlet. It looks like between the cracks in it, you can see like the flicker of light in the joints.
Yeah.
And then there's a small like fanny pack. It's definitely like a sparkly silver color, and between the zippers you can see the flickering of light. He is carrying lightning bolts with him. You never know when you need him.
Absolutely.
His hair is very wispy, and he's probably been in need of a haircut for a little while, so it kind of like sticks out in wings from his hood, and it again also blows in the wind. It's a silvery color, and he's just red in the cheeks and ready for some fun.
And Jim, your question?
My question was, have I met either of these two before?
Typically, the answer to that, unless you specifically want to do something unusual, will be no. Unless we've actually run a mission where you've encountered them. So assume
Right,
no,
okay.
unless you want to get cute with it.
No, I was going to get cute with it with Trezden, but I'm not going to since we haven't met.
I can roll with it.
And after
The only fun
Trezden's
I have is
entrance-
on the battlefield.
Works for me.
Anyway, I will go to Trezden and say, do I get the feeling that Trezden is quite proud of his look and likes to be admired based on what I'm seeing is his get up to be.
I'm going to go out on a massive limb and say yes.
I am taking notice that you're taking notice of me, which feeds my ego nicely. So thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just go up to him and to introduce myself and say, my name's Sloan. You got quite a get up there. You're looking good.
Of course I am. Name's Trezden. Nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
Yeah, I think Goroth would approach and be like, "You are not a warrior, are you?"
See, you see, you can handle myself quite well when we get out there. Trust me, my friend.
Well, all right. Let's go then. This place smells unnatural.
And as if on command, an Enclave attendant, anonymous and impeccably dressed as always, enters the room and wordlessly beckons out.
Shall we begin the hunt?
Do they have that in red?
And the Enclave attendant very politely clasps their hands and shakes their head.
We'll work on that.
I'll nod to Goroth and say, why don't you lead the way there, big guy?
Let's go then.
And Goroth gladly does, making your way through Enclave HQ with its infinite soaring labyrinthine archways and massive cathedral-like halls, until you reach the small, unassuming teleportation chamber, dimly lit, with gleaming pads waiting for you on the ground. And as you enter, a disembodied voice says quietly, "Agents, please take your places on the telepads." And assuming you do, we will proceed. Any final notes before we teleport out?
Not for me.
Goroth is probably doing this pretty cautiously, but
Indeed.
otherwise.
I'm ready for the dramatic superhero landing when I pop in.
And you feel your bodies dissociate. First your toes climbing up your legs, hitting your chest, your fingertips, and your eyes. And when your eyes go, your vision explodes and the world turns to a colorful miasma of nothingness. And then everything reappears, and you find yourself surrounded by noise and darkness and light. It's nighttime, though not late at night. And also there's so much light from fire in many different directions that the night almost seems like evening. The sky is cloudy and there is a heavy nip in the air. It's quite cold. But more importantly, the surface that you have landed on is convulsing wildly. You are on a heavy wooden platform with like flying dowels going off in multiple directions, lashed with rope, and connected overhead with awnings that lead to other platforms still. The howdah that you have been teleported onto, that's on the back of this massive creature, is huge. It's the size of like a medium-sized sailing ship. And the creature itself beneath your feet, larger still. It is the size of a big rig and 3 or 4 times taller, with a single enormous horn jutting off its snout in front of you. But it is also clearly in substantial pain. It's not on its side. Instead, it seems to maybe be kneeling or down on its front, but its body is shaking and tremoring, causing you to sway as though you are on a ship caught in a violent storm. There is also the sound of noise and chaos around you, both the backing thunder of war, the city rising in the distance, the calls of the horde over your shoulders, and also the sounds of battle immediately in front of you and around on the other side of the howdah atop the creature. Immediate actions, we are going to start with Sloan.
Sloan is he needs to get his bearings. I want to find out who is attacking, who are we, Lear, who is he allied with, or who are his allies or his soldiers? And who is the enemy? That's my first order of business. I've got to find out who I'm supposed to be shooting if I end up having to shoot someone.
Absolutely. Amidst the dark and all the movement and the chaos, it's quite hard to, you don't immediately see anything that jumps out to you. So what are distinguishing features, within a millisecond, you know what I mean? So what are distinguishing features that you're going to be trying to check for?
First thing I'm going to look for are uniforms.
Yep.
I want to notice if there is one group of people who has one type of uniform on one group of folks, if that is the larger group of folks based on the pre-mission briefing, I'm assuming that's the enemy. So I really want to try and determine what uniformed group is the largest size.
Absolutely. Another thing you note is that while it seems like the biggest group is in front of you, kind of we're gonna refer to this creature's howdah as a ship for ease's sake. So you're on like the starboard side of this thing, looking towards the prow. And the biggest group seems to be at the prow, like a big milling chaotic group. However, you can also hear there's noise above you on like the central higher deck, so to speak, of the howdah. And then there's another group a little bit behind you. So there's a couple different places to direct your attention, but just looking towards the front group, you actually can only see one style of uniform. But you do see, and it's again hard to perfectly distinguish, but you do see many flashes of metal, as well as color.
Okay.
Immediate reactions based on that or follow-ups?
The immediate reaction then is, okay, a follow-up is what I'm going to go with on that. I need to see if I can determine who Lear is.
Absolutely. How would you go for that? Like, what are you looking for besides one guy being mobbed? Which again, you can only see one type of person in that crowd, so presumably there's someone else in there. But of the group of, again, 10 or so at the head of the creature, you do not see any that stand out among them.
If that's the case, I'm going to have to move to a different position and see if I can reestablish my viewpoint to find this Lear wherever he might be.
Certainly. You can go back and you can go left and up.
I want to go up. I want a higher vantage point to see what's happening here.
Certainly. And to climb to this like central upper deck, there's several ways up. The creature's fur juts out like forming the wall that's immediately to your left. You could use that for handholds. There's the large like stakes and lashings that constitute the construction of the howdah, and there's also the fabric that makes kind of like a scoop on or like an awning that goes over your head from that upper deck. What do you want to use?
First thing I'm going to do is, and I'm sorry I didn't mention this, I'm going to make sure that the pistol is holstered. I'm using the stakes and the lashings. That's how I'm going to head up.
Yep, absolutely. And as you start to grab and pull, we're going to jump over to Goroth. Immediate actions.
So there's a big group ahead of us.
Yep.
Like we said, we see flashes of metal.
Note, Jim, could you remind Sloan's sensory stat?
Yeah, it's
sensory is is 1+.
Yep, and so because of that, not everything that I described would be something Goroth picked out. He would catch some flashes of light from that direction, and like glinting light, not like bursts of light.
And Robbie, could I interject one thing real quick?
Yes, please.
I just want to yell to Goroth and Trezden, I'm heading up.
Absolutely, that's completely reasonable. With that in mind, Goroth.
Sure. So yeah, seeing Sloan heading out, should we charge these enemies?
Before we get Sloan a chance to respond, since he's starting to climb, Trezden, let's check in with you. Any immediate actions upon teleporting in, and then, barring that, any responses to Goroth's yelled question?
So the ground is clearly unstable, so the first thing I'm going to do is no longer stand on it. I am using the wind to lift myself up into a stable position.
What does this feel like?
The wind is basically blowing up into my robe and lifting me up off of the. I'm not flying way up, but I am letting myself be stable as everything around me is shaking.
You just made a hand movement. Is Trezden making any sort of movement or other paired action to activate this?
I think it's more. So I think it's almost like just the arms kind of swoop around in the flow of the robe that spirals with them, kind of pushes up underneath and lifts them up.
Yep, absolutely. And lastly, what's your arcane stat?
+3.
Easy. Okay. Now, with Trezden taking like a little cushion of air above the ground, such that he is no longer having to deal with all this rocking and swaying, does he have a response to Goroth's yelled question?
So, what did you yell, Goroth, again?
Should we charge these enemies? Pointing to the group ahead.
Can I holler, using the wind, holler Lear to see if anyone responds to me calling their name?
Sure. And just like you with that pocket of air thing. What is that going to feel like? And do you have any paired actions you want to do with it?
So I feel like the wind rolls up through the robe, up into the hood, and I just yell it as it like my hair flies out of the front of the hood.
Yep.
Maybe the hood even flies back, and I just bellow his name out loud, looking to see somebody respond to the name.
Absolutely. I should note that this, since you kind of described it as coming up through your robe, this would mean that your height, your hovering height, drops down to like an inch above the ground, as though you.
As long as I'm not rocking on the boat.
Yeah. Boom, and your voice kind of like bellows out like a sudden plume of wind.
I want it to sound like as godly as possible.
Absolutely. And as you yell this out, there is a beat like of no action or no activity. In that beat, does Goroth have any immediate follow-ups?
I think he would interpret that as a war cry, and follow it up with his own like raising his axe above his head.
And as you do so, you hear over your shoulder a voice cry, "More savages about!" And you hear footsteps running towards you from the back.
Turn and ready the axe.
As you turn, Trezden, do you have any immediate follow-ups after your call is not immediately reacted to?
Oh, nobody seemed to respond like I called their name?
No, but you do hear the "more savages about" from over your shoulder behind you.
Oh, I'm doing the good old... Love. There we go.
And
It's
as
all
you
about
turn,
the theatrics of it,
course,
you know?
This is Enclave after all. As you turn, by the way, the two of you turn, you would see that there are 3 soldiers that are kind of rocking and rolling their way towards you. They are not like completely without sea legs, it would seem, and they use the lashings and the stakes of the howdah to pretty effectively navigate. All of them are wearing kind of a blood crimson-y red uniforms with bright burnished bronze for armor, which is quite elegantly made and descends down into like a large trellised skirt of mail. They're also wearing tall like helmets that go well beyond the scope of their head, and all are carrying heavy-headed tridents as weapons. As they come over to you, or start to approach, one of them like brings a hand up towards Trezden and says, "Fellow, how fare you against these savages? Is that one surrendered?"
Oh. Just pause for a moment.
I'll give you a moment to think about this while we jump back to Sloan. I'm sure Goroth has responses to this as well. Now, Sloan, you have climbed up, and then you would have to either, do you want to go up and around the cloth, or like slide between like the strips of cloth to get through onto the next landing?
On these strips of cloth, are they tightly pulled apart? I mean, is it going to be a struggle to get through, or just basically the quickest way through? Quickest way to the others.
Quickest way would be through, but obviously, since you'd be kind of pulling yourself through, it would be a more compromised position.
Well, since I've got a skill of +3, I want to do kind of a flourishing haha, and vault myself over onto the top of the platform.
And with an elegant kick up, you do a full like handstand flip up and over, and can land neatly on the stakes that hold the cloth taut. And now up on this upper level, you can see that there's a good amount of activity, and it's a good deal of a smaller space. You can think of it like twice the size of a bedroom, though of course it doesn't have walls. It just has like a couple of like big stakes holding up a small canopy above. And there's a lot of activity in here. You can immediately pick out about 8 people up here, of whom all but 1 are wearing those same uniforms with bronze and red. Now that you're close to them, you can see the colors bright red that you saw down below. Immediate actions upon vaulting up.
Okay, one thing that I point of clarification: did I hear Trezden when he yelled Lear out?
You absolutely did.
Okay, Sloan would have knocked him for just a quick second. I mean, it would have been, not that I would want Trezden to know, but I would be very impressed by the fact that he has that ability.
Indeed.
So there would have been there would have been a quick stop and look down and kind of a wow type thing before I progressed. So if that delay, which I feel I have to do, if that slows down my progress in this particular second, I'm fine with that.
That's perfectly fine. It would delay you by all of a second and a half before you do that vault, and then now up high, you can take scope of this melee that's going on up here.
Okay, so we've got right now there are, you say, 8 people who are on one person.
Yep, or rather, 8 people of whom 7 are on one.
7 are on one. I'm going to have to assume that I have stumbled upon Lear. Is it Lears or Lear?
Lears with a Z.
Okay. I'm going to have to assume that this is Lears that I have stumbled across. I could be wrong, but I'm going to go with it anyway. And what I'm going to be looking to do is create a standoff right here in front of this group by yelling at them, bringing their attention to me, and then doing my calm, cool, collected man with no name look as they turn to look at me.
What are you yelling?
I think that's just going to be, "Excuse me, gentlemen."
And as you activate the standoff, you feel an eerie stillness in the air, and their raised weapons pause in their hands, and faces turn to face you. You see that their features are small and alert, with heavy brows and tensed jaws because of all of the fighting and violence. And as they look to face you, one of them says, "You do not speak like a savage. Who are you, stranger?"
Just someone who's passing through, looking for a man named Lears. Wouldn't happen to be him there, would it?
And you can see that they look to each other for a moment, and one of them, who you can see, I said they have like these kind of tall conical like helmets, like a big barbute, if you know your medieval arms and armor.
Right.
His helmet has what looks like a coiling snake going around it that is part of the metal work on the helmet. He steps forth. His armor is heavier as well, and in addition to his heavy trident, which they all carry, you can see that he also has a heavy mace in the other hand. And he says, "Lears sounds to me like the name of a savage. And what would you have to do with one of their ilk?"
Real quick, I want to see if when I announced that I was looking for Lears, did the man who's on the ground look my direction as in, "Hey, that's me"?
The figure on the ground is hard to see because they're being obscured by people's legs. But
Sure.
you do see a movement when you say the name.
That's enough of that. I'm gonna pull out the pistol and we're gonna start shooting things up.
And as you bring, where are you aiming and who are you aiming at? Closest, furthest, where in their bodies, etc.
It's going to be the closest person to me, and I'm even though I'm an excellent shot, I'm still going to go with point of largest body of mass and try and hit somebody dead center in the chest, hoping that this is going to go through whatever armor that they're wearing.
Absolutely. The first shot you can see hits dead center mass, and it does look like it goes through the armor, but just looking at how they react to it, it probably did not go clean. They grab their chest and stagger backwards, gasping, and you can see that a few of the other soldiers like jump at the sudden noise, and another says, "What?" And the one who initially was speaking says, "What sorcery is this? Fire from the fingers!"
I'm going to empty all 6 shots of my revolver, and I'm sorry. Now, hang on though. I'm going to have to use an action that the shootout in order to get my weapon automatically teleported into my hand. Just so you know, I'm just wanting to give you the opportunity to say, "You're taking too long on this, Jim." You know, I don't want to jump ahead of myself, is what I'm saying.
No
So I would
problem.
have had to use shootout to teleport my gun into my hand. Then I would have started the shooting. So just so you know, that's how I'm going about this.
That is perfectly fine. Initiating this with a shootout, which you already fulfilled the paired action criteria for, would also mean that you can't actually empty your gun. You get infinite ammo during a shootout. And so,
Nice.
because of this, is this just fanning the hammer and shooting
That's
until they're
that's
dead?
exactly what it is.
Lovely.
You betcha.
While you are working, and I should note, their armor is no slouch. Even though it looks like bronze, it definitely doesn't act like bronze. And because of that, it seems to be taking at least 2 or 3 rounds to drop one of these guys, unless you get them in the head. Like if you're going center mass, their chest plates are heavy enough and convex enough that it's not beautifully going through. While Sloan is working, though, let's jump back downstairs. Trezden, any actions from you before Goroth acts?
Yeah. I'm going to kiss my gauntlet.
Mhm.
And I'm going to slap it right down on the deck in front of them with a thunderclap.
Yep. And how are you aiming the thunderclap? Are you aiming it to blow them away? To
I
just make
I
big
am like
noise?
I am bowling for armored dopes here. I want to strike.
Yeah. And their proximity to you and the rickety stance that they have on this rickety deck means that as you strike with the thunderclap, the wave of force that emanates forth not only blasts them clean off their feet, but actually blasts out part of the howdah that they are standing on. And so if we're, it's not a circular howdah, right? But if we're looking at this from a bird's eye view and it's a clock face, right? You guys are at like 3 to 4 o'clock, and from like 4 to 5:30 is just gone at this point. Blam. Now, and they both go sailing off the back of the creature. You hear a yelp as the small group that was behind them like takes a huge set of staggering steps backwards and actively flees to get out of range from the collapsing section. Immediate follow-ups from Trezden, and then we'll jump to Goroth.
I hear gunfire going on above us?
Not just yet.
But I know that Sloan's gone
You know
north.
that Sloan has gone up.
Goroth, shall I bring us up?
I'm looking around for enemies.
And as Goroth, with these ones no longer in a satisfying proximity.
I'm sorry. There's more.
Your head once again turns to the large group that was ahead of you when you first ported in.
I will kill those. Can I actually even reach them?
There's no big gap in between, so yes, you can reach. It'll be like a good charge leading into them, though. We're not talking. We're talking like 2 hallways away, sort of charge.
Okay. Well, I think Goroth would, as a hunter, be able to forestall his battle cry until he's gotten it within a reasonable distance. So he's just going to start running towards them.
Yep. As he starts to barrel towards them.
I'm
I
letting him by. Go ahead.
Indeed. Before he reaches them, Trezden, follow-up actions.
I think how big is the pile he's heading towards?
Big. It looks to be at least 10 people, but in this light, it is... Actually, do you have sensory?
I have no sensory.
Awesome. You can't frickin' tell. A lot of guys, probably 10-ish.
Okay. I am not going to leave him, but I'm going to let him take his charge. I'm kind of staying between where Sloan climbed up and where he's running towards. I'm not familiar with his abilities, and I'm curious. And if he needs my help, I'm here. So
this is when you would start to hear gunfire from above, by the way. Has Trezden ever heard gunfire before?
Maybe not modern guns, but being from like a Venice, Italy type of setting, there were definitely blunderbusses and it was gunpowder.
To him would sound like a firing line above. He wouldn't be used to a single gun shooting that fast.
Yes. But at the moment, I think I need to make sure that I'm pretty sure Goroth can handle himself, but I'm here just in case.
Absolutely. And Goroth, speaking of which, how would you like to conclude your charge? None of the enemies are facing towards you. It seems that they're forming like a scrum at the very head of the howdah, which you can see has quite a lot of lashing leading up to it. And it looks like in some cases, a person towards the center is flung out over the top, clatters onto the ground, and like tries groggily to pull themselves back to their feet. And you see like this happen once or twice, even as you rush in towards them. And your charge in would take you past a couple of the prone figures of soldiers, either unconscious or dead, who've been flung outside of the scrum.
Interesting. Well, I think I would charge basically anime style with both hands on the axe, like, and yeah, as he starts getting closer, yelling his battle cry.
Yep.
Just yelling. And he's going to go for like a whoosh, long swiping, hitting as many as I can
And you
into the
have
scrub.
a double might, is that correct?
Double bite, yes.
Absolutely. In that case, their armor is not terrible, right? Their armor is good enough to not just get cloven through by your axe. However, your enormous might stat and the enclave nature of your axe means that you take 1, 2, 3 of them and throw them to the ground, with the first one having his armor caved in on his side, and the other two going down like bowling pins with him as the ball. After this initial swing, you feel that your axe blade is ever so slightly stuck in his armor, but not anything that a little foot can't help get out of.
Yeah,
Immediate
definitely.
follow-ups.
Plant a foot on his head, yank it out.
Yep. This
Are they alive down there?
They're definitely alive. The one that you smashed is in clearly enormous pain and probably isn't getting back up, but the other two are starting to get back to their feet almost immediately, and your charge in has alerted at least like a third of the remaining scrum, whose heads are turning towards you and whose maces and tridents start to raise in your direction.
So the one that's immediately down, I'm going to take out one of my spears, just straight down into his face.
Yep. They do have open faces because of their style of their helmets, and so the spear strikes true, burying through his nose. This
And
immediately results in one of the ones that's closest to you on their feet, lunging at you with a two-handed jab of their trident towards center mass.
Ooh. So let's see. So I'm like this. So I'm going to use the haft of my axe to just like block it this way.
Absolutely. Leaving the spear in the guy's face for the moment.
Yes.
And as you block that way, you can feel that the stab, the spearman who's just stabbed at you, is clearly fairly proficient with his spear and tries to use the hook of the trident to pull your axe haft back and away so that he can get his point back facing towards your chest.
Ooh.
Now, I should note, he is definitely a substantial bit weaker than you. He does have a leverage advantage at the moment, but you have 2 might.
Yeah. I'm also quite tall.
Yeah.
So I'm imagining I'm probably taller than him. So yeah, I think I would drive forward, trying to like overpower him and push him off balance.
Absolutely. And this pushes him into another member of the scrum. As you push forward in, one of the other ones who had turned to face you brings his own weapon to bear. He's now pretty much right next to you, and his weapon is one of their shorter maces, which he's aiming towards your head, but you only can kind of get him out of your periphery, so you don't get a great view of what he's trying to do with it.
And how's the other one kind of tied up with my axe here?
This one is completely overbalanced with his spear over his face, falling against one of his compatriots.
Ooh. Okay. I'm going to give it like one quick push forward, pull out the other spear, jab him in the face, and try and dodge whatever's incoming from the other side.
And in this case, you do get a nasty smash in the head for your troubles. The close proximity to the maceman, because the two of you are almost rubbing shoulders, means that he can't get the leverage necessary to cave your skull in with this thing, but it does, if nothing else, cause your head to sharply snap down, lights blink in front of your eyes, and you are completely dazed for the moment. Before we go further, Trezden and then back to Sloan. Trezden, I do first because he had taken the moment to observe. He can see the scene play out before him. Goroth rushing in, taking down 3 guys, blocking it, like parrying another one, pushing him in, and then getting clocked with a mace. When would Trezden like to jump in, if at all?
The moment he gets clocked with a mace, it looks like I might have to jump in here and give him a hand. So I am using my good old Talaria to scoot over there as fast as I possibly can.
Yep, rushing into the action.
Yep, I'm trying to build up some energy in my glove as I go.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to return the favor into the head of the guy who just clocked him in the head.
It sounds almost like a flying lightning-infused falcon punch to me.
That's, a nice way of putting it, yes.
Yeah. The man goes sailing...
Actually, even better, I will tap him on the shoulder so his face can turn towards me before I do it.
Yes, indeed. And after he by the time you get to him, your vigor stat actually is really relevant here. What's your vigor?
It's +1.
+1. Okay.
1+,
in that case, by the time that you have gotten to him, he has actually done like a teep kick and knocked would he actually be able to? Yes, he would, because Goroth is overbalanced. and has knocked Goroth onto his side. And in so doing is starting to come over him with a proper two-handed blow to take his head. And this would be when you can get him on the shoulder.
Yep.
And he turns to face you. He says, "Yes, brother." He goes sailing off of the back of the war beast into the darkness. Before we go further, Sloan, let's jump up to you. You have you chewed through probably 19 rounds on this group, but
All right.
they're free at the moment. And when finally all of them are down and mostly not moving, what would you like to do?
I'm not worried if I killed him or not. I need to go and I need to pay attention to the person that they were beating up on. I'm
Yep.
still hoping that that's Lears.
Absolutely.
So I'm moving to him.
And as you rush over, you can see the figure on the ground is horrifically bloodied, muscular physique, furs and pelts and bone armor cross their body, mostly broken and bloodied. Their hair has been partially scalped by a knife, and they're laying face down in a pool of blood.
Foregoing normal first aid procedures, I'm going to roll him over so that I can get a look
Yep.
at him, and hopefully he's still conscious, and I can ask him, "Are you Lears?"
And as you turn, it's a woman. A powerful, armed, bloodied, vicious-looking woman. But her eyes catch yours with a piercing sky blue stare, and her face contorts into a snarl.
Lears?
The snarl vanishes, and she says, "What do you want with my husband?"
I'm from the Enclave. I'm here to help Lears, and I'm trying to find him, and you must know where he is. Do you know where he is?
Unless he has been taken, he is at the helm of our steed.
Can you move? Can I help you up?
I fear not. She offers a trembling hand on the off chance.
I'll take her hand. I'll take her hand.
She weighs a frickin' ton. Do you have a might stat?
Absolutely not.
She is not able to help you in any way, and as such, her dead weight is on. You cannot move it.
Okay, really quickly, is there anything that an obvious wound that I can, where she's losing a lot of blood, where I could bind that? But I'm talking fast here, ripping
Yep.
off a piece of cloth, tying it up because I need to keep moving.
Multiple. You see that she has her legs cut open along the vital arteries there. She also has her scalp partially cut off, and she also has an awful slash across her face.
So we're looking at 3, maybe 4 really bloody wounds at this point. I will choose 2 of those to try and staunch the flow of blood. Once I've done that, I'll ask her, which direction is he?
Which 2? Head, face, or
I'm
legs?
gonna legs.
Absolutely. As you are, what are you going to use for tourniqueting here?
I'm just looking around trying to, if there's something, a piece of cloth on one of the guys that I took down.
Oh, yeah. They have
I'll
ornamental
rip it out.
sashes.
And then if they have a dagger or something like that, I'll use that to make a twist of the tourniquet. But again, I'm working fast here.
And with your trips skill, working fast is absolutely what you are able to do. You're able to work lightning quick. And you can actually ask her these questions while you are doing so. You can see that as you begin to tourniquet her down, you can see that she grabs one of the weapons from one of the dead soldiers. It takes her a little while to get to it, and then puts it in her teeth to bite down on.
All right.
And after asking her the question, with her eyes clamped shut through the pain, she tremblingly points over her head, which is the direction towards the big scrum that you were facing when you first entered it in.
Okay. All right. I can't stay with her, and I'm going to say, wish you luck, ma'am, but I got to be moving on, and I'm not waiting for a response. I'm heading out.
And as you do so, the only thing you hear behind you is a faint, murmured, growling language, almost like a whispered prayer.
Okay.
Rushing to the direction on the raised platform that she is on, you get to the edge and can overlook the scene below. And this is exactly when, down below, Trezden plows that guy off the edge of the monster. And from here, you actually get a much better look of the scene. This creature could best be compared to a woolly rhino, if you're familiar, but colossal. It seems to be kneeling, much in the way that you'll see camels do, right?
Sure.
But also lashed to its head right where the platform ends, you can see a figure. The lashings that are literally physically connected to his body are the only thing preventing him from falling off. He is slumped and seems almost entirely unconscious from the litany of blows he has been enduring.
Does it look as though this is how he guides this beast?
From what you were looking at, this is absolutely intentional. He for sure tied himself there because of these invaders would not have taken a rope, brought it all the way around a creature, and just lashed him up like that. So it seems completely intentional. Probably how he controls it is a good guess.
Okay, so I need to pay attention to my two companions. I'm going to get out I'm going to holster the revolver, get out the Sharps rifle, and see if there's anybody that I need to shoot from my upper vantage point down where they are.
Certainly. From this point, you guys are all completely synced up in time. And so, Jim, if you want to chime in, I will also be tapping to you to say things that you see that the other two don't down in the fray. Trezden, immediately after the punch, do you have immediate follow-ups? Because you have enemies all around you at very close proximity.
Oh, I am definitely tempted to see how metal armor handles lightning bolts. But I'm also worried that I'm going to fry somebody else that's in the pile over here.
Indeed.
Maybe with a little bit of luck, I can hit them and not him. I take out a lightning bolt. Let's see how this scatters across the metal. Let's target people that are close enough that I think it's going to affect more than one of them.
Okay, with everyone being so close, this is almost more of a matter of like touching it to someone rather than like throwing it at them.
In that case, I'm licking the fingers first.
Yeah. Now, two notes. First of all, you feel a sudden through your own body as the bolt partially backfires on you. Your hair shoots out on end. Your ears ring wildly. Your vision scurries. But up above, Sloan can see down below a sudden flash of light and then a pop and then like a scattering. You can see that Trezden is still standing put with his hair like all sooty like a cartoon character at the moment. But like precisely cough, little plume of smoke coming out. But the guy that he touched dropped immediately. The two guys who were kind of touching him are like staggering backwards. But from here, there is one other guy who is quite close to Trezden when that happened, who is now like standing backwards, like cowering. But two other guys who had been on their back when you first were observing the situation are now on their feet and are approaching Trezden from his back. At the same time, before you act on that, Goroth is finally able to clear his head and start to get to his feet. You feel, you're putting a hand to your head, you feel blood. You can feel that your right eye is having a little trouble seeing, but you have enough of your wits to get back to your feet, if you wish.
Yeah. Stumble up to my feet, look for my spears first
your
and
spears
foremost.
are very, like, obviously poking out of people who are laying on the ground, so those are much easier to grab.
Grab those first.
Two things you would note. First of all, you are now in full sight of the lashed figure who is at the head of the scrum. There is no longer any vision, like anything blocking him from your vision, and also he is not currently being attacked. There was a big boom, and you're not really sure what that was, but now that you're back on your feet, you can see one cowering guy kind of to your right who's only starting to register that you're back up, and there's two guys on your left who are both armed, on their feet, and approaching Trezden, who is standing still with his hair on end.
So, spear in the right hand, I'm going to toss it up in the air, catch it so that it's point out, and throw it at the one approaching Trezden, or one of the ones approaching Trezden.
Closer or further?
The further.
It's still a very short range throw. Where on his body are you vaguely aiming?
Okay, armor-wise, he's facing away from me. Do they have anything on their back? Is it like full armor kind of thing?
He's facing you at the side. And so because of that, you don't have a great view of his back.
Well, does anything look exposed is kind of what I would be going for.
They're pretty well armored. Maybe the leg, but there's cloth in the way, so there could be something under that.
And how far away are they, roughly?
Honestly, it's a trivial range, like less than a room length away.
Then I'm aiming for the head.
And Sloan, from your position up here, which can also add into your actions, you can see that with a massive throw, Goroth plows one of his spears and it smashes into the side of one of the guy's helmets. It seems to stick in the helmet, but more importantly, the guy goes down immediately. Follow-ups from Sloan, or does he want to hold position for now?
No, Sloan wants to yell out, Trezden, behind you! And then I'm going to try and use the Sharp's rifle to shoot the other one that's coming up behind Trezden.
Aiming where?
I'm going to shoot him in the head.
Absolutely. With this,
Not Trezden. It's coming up behind
I
Trezden.
would imagine, yes. With this substantially higher caliber firearm, even though you are further away and at a very bad angle, and the helmet is obviously of a very well-armored place on the body, typically, it still goes through. And more importantly, it hits him in the neck. That guy drops immediately. And jumping over to Trezden, though your ears are ringing, you do hear Sloan's voice, and you register it enough to be able to blearily act. Immediate actions.
Hair has to be fixed.
There we go.
Yeah. Hood back up. I am recomposing myself here. I need to see what's going on around me.
Beautiful. Immediate follow-ups before he is fully recomposed from Goroth after the throw. You hear a weird snapping noise, and the other guy who is like also approaching Trezden drops from like seemingly out of nowhere. But you do hear Sloan's voice as well, though you can't see him at the moment. You hear it up and kind of to your leftish. But there was also the cowering guy who does at this point seem to be trying to run away, climbing over the edge of the howdah and grabbing a lashing to try to swing down to the ground.
Yeah, I'm gonna chase after, like, towards him, and if I can catch him before he does anything, I'm just gonna probably Sparta kick him off if I can.
Yes, you absolutely can do so. A flying kick is definitely the best way to catch him before he does a swing, which knocks him off of the rope as he plummets.
A glorious hunt.
And as you announce this, for the first time, Goroth does not see any immediate enemies around, and he sees the lashed man hanging limply in position. It's as though his body is being held in effectively an X, with the wrists and the ankles all bound by lashings, connected to the beast's howdah and down under its neck.
It's our quarry.
No one immediately...
Do I see it?
I should note that, Trezden, now that you've recomposed yourself, you see this as well. It's now that your vision is clearing, it's right in front of you. Goroth is a little ahead of you, standing near to the lashed man.
Can I grab... Have I found Sloan? Do I know where he is as well?
You heard Sloan's voice, and it was kind of behind you. Do you want to check over your shoulder?
Yes.
Don't immediately catch his eye, but or see him, but you might be able to call to him or something if you want.
Am I understanding that our target is out in that area?
No idea.
Would my character put this together?
I'm going to say no. You just got fried by lightning.
Okay, that's fair enough. I've recomposed myself, which is important, even though I can't stop this ringing in my ears.
Indeed.
I'm going to use my vigor. He's heading out. So Goroth is heading out towards the strapped man.
Yeah, the lashed man, exactly.
So I am going to follow suit.
Yep. You trot over, keeping pace with Goroth quite easily as he approaches. Sloan, do you have any actions as your companions slowly, almost curiously, seem to approach the lashed man?
I'm going to yell down to them, Trezden, I think that's the man we're looking for. I just talked to his wife. I think that's Lear's. Just to confirm that that's who we're trying to find.
Absolutely. This confirms it to the two of you as you approach. And I should note, at his name, you can see Lear's stir on his lashings.
I knew that. Thank you.
He lives.
Lear's is massive, easily Goroth's size, if not a little bit broader in some areas. But his skin is like snow pale, and he's very, very hairy. You know, like earlier man sort of thing. He also has an absolute, like his hair doesn't stop at the back of his head, if that makes sense. It kind of goes down his back like a mane. But what armor and pelts he did have on him have all been ripped off by weapons and wounds. He has been cut in 100 places. You see horrible bruises, and yet somehow he is moving. He grunts deeply. But he is facing away from you, looking out over the giant horn at the head of the beast. What do you guys want to do as you approach his back?
Call out to him. Something like, "Oi! You wants to get you off of there."
And you hear, "I shall only descend when the gate lies in ruins." Ha ha! They think that is enough to take down me? He laughs wildly.
I'm looking out. Do we see the gate in front of us?
No. It's dark and the city still looks very far away.
Wish I could speed this animal up.
The animal still kneels, but now that he is awake and moving, you see that Lears suddenly tenses in, almost like a bodybuilding flex, and the lashings on his hands strain under his muscles. And with a groan, the beast starts to pull itself to its feet. Now, this obviously would send all of you lurching, but there's lashing nearby enough that you can grab onto something pretty easily. I will note, though, many of the
staying a little off the beast myself.
Do you want to try to redo that, because obviously that's dropped after all of the
yeah, I got zapped. I think I should have. So my winged shoes, I can basically run on air with them. So I'm in general, like, if I can keep my toes off the beast, I prefer it.
Sure. The winged shoes work best with a running start. So using an arcane manifestation to give yourself a little cushion is going to give you the most duration, whereas the shoes are for what stretches that out, like a double jump in a video game.
Okay. As we ran out towards the head of the thing, I
pop yourself
climbed up the stairs a little bit.
And as it starts to groaningly gets to its feet, any follow-up actions from Goroth or Trezden?
Collect my weapons.
Yep. There's the axe. Just as it's starting to slide away, many of the downed bodies of your enemies are now going off the back, like it's the Titanic. But as you guys are doing so, any follow-up actions from... Oh, Trezden already said that he's on his pocket of air. Sloan, any follow-up actions from you, from your Overwatch position in that higher platform?
I want to make a quick scan to see if there's another body of warriors, obviously from the city, that are heading in the direction of Trezden and Goroth. If there isn't, I'm going to sling my rifle.
And taking a scan out, it seems to your eyes, just amidst the dark, right, that there are two remaining lines of defense. You see, you guys, the ditch is just behind you. You can see it much more clearly now. It's a pretty impressive, sieging ditch, right, which is full of stakes and nastiness. But ahead, you can see that there is a heavy swale. So another smaller ditch, and then a big rise of soil that is also completely trapped with all sorts of nonsense. And beyond that, an impromptu palisade that seems to be, at this point, pretty heavily manned.
Okay. My goal I'm not going to act on that. What I want to do at this point is I need to head back to the wife.
Yep.
And since things have calmed down here, we've found Lears. I want to go back. She may be able to help in the maneuvering of this beast.
Mm.
She's probably going to be able to assist her husband in some way. I need to go back and see if she hasn't bled out and try and help her a little bit more than I did initially.
Absolutely. So slinging your rifle and swayingly make your way back over.
Yep.
Absolutely. As the beast starts to get back to its feet, down below with Trezden and Goroth, after his big flex, Lears lets his body all the way out and then does like a snap in the air with his arms and legs at the same time, and the beast starts to gallop. It takes some acceleration to get it there. Waddle, waddle, rumble, rumble, trot, 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 gallop. And when this thing runs, it smashes the ground. It sounds like thunder. The howdah that you're on is rumbling wildly. It is not a smooth ride, but doesn't matter for Trezden. And I'm guessing that for Goroth, it's not like a. It seems like he's not going to be
not
worried about
unusual.
breaking a nail. Yes.
Yeah, he's having fun.
Now, as this thing is barreling towards both Trezden and Goroth, though their eyes aren't good enough to see all the defenses in the same way that Sloan has, you can see up ahead that swale I was describing. A smaller ditch, and then a big rise of earth that makes this like natural ledge, which is absolutely littered in like palings and traps and things clearly meant to completely thwart an incoming army, which it clearly has done a pretty good job of doing. It's not immediately clear to you guys how the beast is going to be getting up that damn thing, but any actions you'd like to take as it is barreling forwards.
Can I start storm brewing and possibly cause some destructive winds to strike the swale, knock debris away, just kind of blast as much of the obstacles out of the way as possible?
Absolutely, you can start storm brewing. With storm brewing, your paired action is very important. It needs to be kind of befitting the weather you're trying to make, and you need to prolong it. So the longer you're doing this paired action, the more you can work up the storm.
So as we're heading towards it, the rushing wind past us as we're running, I am turning it.
Mm-hmm.
I am doing my best to like spin it around me and send it out in front of me so it starts creating two cyclones in front of the animal.
So you were making this movement with your hands. Storm Brewing's paired action really likes rhythmic movement, like prolonged rhythmic, almost ritualistic movement. So starting from that point, describe me a little more about what this will be looking like from him.
All right, so it almost I picture like I'm almost floating out to the horn of the beast and I'm dancing on the end of the horn.
Yep.
Like to the thunder of the feet, which has a rhythm to it.
Yep.
I'm just kind of stirring the wind in front of it. As I stand on like one foot on the tip of the horn, I'm actually using my flight, but it looks like I'm standing right on the tip of the horn.
And
as
the
you,
it seemed almost like you were swimming with your hands just now when you were doing that. Is that kind of the feel you're going for as well?
Yeah, and like I picture like the cloak is twirling around with them as well. It's just
and
it's
absolutely. The weather, as I described, is already heavy. It's cold, there's wind in the air, there's clouds overhead, and because of that, this wind you're trying to raise is very congruent with the current weather and therefore is much easier to kick up. And so as you're starting to do so, the wind is beginning to pick up around you, and so too for the other fellows that are currently on the beast. Actions from Goroth. Trezden is floating out across the muzzle of the beast.
Yeah, I was gonna head toward the muzzle as well.
Certainly. Climbing out, as you are moving your way past Lears, you can see that he, like, in the brief moment that you're next to him, he, like, alternatingly flexes and pulses his arms and legs, almost like he's paddling the creature like a canoe, you know what I mean? But the muzzle is not super hard to go across because there's another lashing going from the tip of its horn all the way down. And because of that, you can make your way out to the horn pretty much right underneath Trezden at the same time. As you are doing so, you see shapes in the sky.
The hunt resumes!
There's not many of them, and the darkness of the sky makes it hard to pick them out, but you see two groups of them that are flying out and down before they start to circle. As you call this out, at the moment there is so much wind that Trezden does not initially hear Goroth when he says this. What does Goroth want to do from here?
How far away are they?
Pretty far. We're talking like low flying airplane height at the
moment. Unsling the axe, but holding on with one hand for now. So axe in the right, hanging on with the left, and waiting until they get closer.
They're starting to swoop in quite quickly thereafter. There's two groups of them. It looks like two groups of three. They are large creatures, sinuous with great, what look like feathery wings. Though you can only slightly make out the feathering from your current vantage point. They each form like a wing group that are circling both in a counterclockwise fashion above the directly above the war beast that you are on, steadily descending as they do so.
Cool. So I am gonna start bracing my legs against the whatever I'm bracing against, the muzzle, presumably. Yeah. and starting to prepare a warp spasm
Yep.
in my leg.
What is it going to feel like to prepare a warp spasm?
So yeah, I think, like I said, it almost like flexing my legs, but to the point where they're like ripping to shreds almost as I'm like planting deep into this
Yep.
creature's muzzle, really.
And I'm guessing growling, grunting, sweating. Like, what is this going to manifest like on
Yeah.
him?
Yeah, very much the
Discord noise canceled most of that, but I get the idea. And let's jump back up to Sloan. You start to slide your way down the currently diagonal top shelf of the howdah. But
Right.
with your skill, you can pretty easily navigate your way. And by the time you get back to the relevant area you're going for, it's starting to level out again. You can see her on the ground. It looks like she was stopping herself from sliding with that knife that was between her teeth earlier, stabbed into the wood. But as you come to her, and the level is starting to come even again, her fingers weakly lose grip on the knife. What do you want to do?
I move straight in and just tell her I'm back to help her out. Say, let's get you back down. I got to get these wounds healed, or you're gonna bleed out.
And you hear her say, "The wind is high. It will take my breath and bring it back home north, I think."
I'm not sure what you're talking about, but I don't think you're going anywhere soon if we can get these wounds bound up. Come on, lady. And then I'm going to start binding up whatever's left so that we can hopefully stop this flow of blood.
Absolutely. You have a good amount of materials still near you. While many of the soldiers were slid off, unfortunately, there are still lashings to deal with and a knife that you can cut them off with.
Yeah, I mean, anything that I need, anything that's around that I can use to bind wounds, I'll just, I don't care if it's clean or not. I just want to stop bleeding if I can.
And after, again, with your trip skill, you can do this quite quickly. As a quick question, where would Sloan have learned to bind wounds? It makes sense to me that he would, but give me a little bit about it.
Well, where he would have learned it was back when he worked in the circus.
Yeah.
There was initially when he was young, he was part of a knife throwing act.
Yeah.
And so there were the odd accidents in the knife throwing act, and so first aid was definitely a part of the learning process for that when he was a youngster. So that's where he picked this up.
Absolutely. That makes a boatload of sense. And because of that, I can imagine learning how to do it fast also is something he would have picked up.
I would
And
agree.
as you tie the last tourniquet, which is, again, mostly in her like head neckish area, kind of binding her face down, she can only mostly speak through gritted teeth at this point, which is not horribly different from how she was speaking before. But her eyes slightly hazy, look towards you, and says, "There is, not far from here, a satchel containing within it herbs that we use for the creature upon which we stand. Fetch it for me. It hangs off of the back." She points behind her.
Okay. Again, the platform that we're on right now is, for the most part, level. I don't have to worry about her tumbling off the side of this beast.
Very bumpy, but level.
Okay. Then I'll say, all right, I'll go get it. You just wait here. Don't try and do anything stupid. And then I'm going to start heading in the direction she indicates.
Yep. Making your way to the back of the this upper platform and looking over the edge, you can see that it has almost rigging leading down to the ground behind the beast, clearly allowing people to jump on and go up when it's stationary. But maybe they're supposed to take it off but didn't because they were in a hurry. You do see that satchel among a number of other interesting oddities that are hanging off the back, but more notably, behind the beast, no less than an eighth of a mile, you see a column of fast-running warriors, and a very large contingent who are clearly, first of all, they're moving very fast. Second of all, not armored. And third of all, they keep exactly behind the creature, kind of following in its slipstream, even though they're too far away to catch that literally.
Yeah, so the creature's plowing the way for them to follow along and get into the city. I mean, just make a mental note of that. But my goal here is the satchel.
Absolutely. Grabbing it and heading back to her. She looks to it, grabs it, tears it open, and fishes around in it until you see her pull out a couple of like strange little tiny poultices, one of which she puts in her mouth and the other of which She crams into the open wound in her stomach.
Okay.
And after grinding it with her teeth for a moment, you hear a hissing from her. And there's a strange, wispy glittering in the air. And she says, "Yes, the north wind does not take me today. Not yet. Not until the gate is broken, I hope." What do you want to do from here?
I think that from my vantage point up here, I need to pass on that knowledge to the guys down below that are kind of overseeing the progress of this beast. So I need to head back to the front of this platform so that I can yell down to them what the defenses look like ahead that they might not be able to see from their vantage point.
Certainly. And looking down, you see two things. One, bad. They're quite far away. They're out on the muzzle of the beast, probably out of hearing range given how loud it is, and also the wind, which is getting really strong. Second of all, they're right out by the horn. And you can see that, in fact, after a moment of looking for him, Trezden is seeming to perch on top of that horn, moving his arms wildly. The first line of defenses, that big swale, is close enough now that they can definitely see that, but it seems unlikely they would have seen past it. What do you want to do from here, given that it does seem really unlikely they're in shouting range?
First thing I want to do is mutter under my breath when I see Trezden doing what he's doing. I'm going to mutter under my breath, "Show off," and then I'm gonna go back and tell the woman, the wife, that I'm heading forward. And is there any last thing that she needs me to do?
And
that's
as
where
you
I'm.
say
That's
this,
my action.
oh, pardon?
That's my action. That's all.
Absolutely. And as you get back to her, she's actually pulled herself up to her feet using the knife into the wood of the howdah. And as you say this to her, she says, "My husband, Lers, is clearly not been taken by the wind. Our mount would not move without him. I am his eyes. He does not see as well as I can. And I point him. If you can allow me to point him, we may yet reach the gate."
Tell me what you need me to do, ma'am.
"There will be more resistance to us. Even now I can sense it in my bleeding gut. Keep them from me."
I'll do my best. Do you need to be moved to a different location?
"Yes." She says, "Where you came from. There."
All right, and I'll this time I'll try and hopefully I can help her this time since she's got some more of her own strength, and I'll start maneuvering her to wherever she needs to go, and then I'll go from there.
Yeah, her barbarian body is just barely enough for you to hold with her helping out a little bit. And you bring her out to the prow of this upper level, where you can see, now that you're looking, there is like a small, like a stance, like standing point just outside of the base platform that has loose lashings waiting. And as she takes her stance on it, she actually grabs each of them in her hands and with her teeth starts to tie them to her wrists.
Okay. She doesn't need my assistance with that?
It seems that she's pretty proficient.
It looks like that's her thing that she does. Okay.
Indeed. And given that she no longer seems to, the medicine that she took seems to be helping with her bleeding, her tourniquet has been taken off her jaw long enough to let her actually use her teeth for it. Follow-ups from you as she is lashing herself in place.
Well, from my position here, does it look like Goroth or Trezden are in any kind of imminent danger from being attacked from behind? Do they look secure at this point?
Goroth is doing something strange. I will say Trezden is super exposed, one sniper and he's dead, but you don't see any, you haven't seen any snipers yet. Goroth is looking strange though. You see him tensed and almost quivering, though it could be the shaking of the beast. But you see that he is in an odd hunched over position.
Then the last thing I'm gonna mutter to myself, "What's he up to?" And then I'm gonna get the rifle back out, load one shot into my rifle, and then just basically go on patrol.
And from here, let's jump back into Goroth. What do you want to do?
Sure. So basically, I am waiting for one of these flying beasts to swoop close enough, and then I want to spring towards it off the beast.
And
and
that's going to
jump
be
onto
your
its
warp
back.
spasm. I am taking a
Yes.
wild stab in the dark.
Yes.
And in
So
that case,
super jumping off the warp spasm, basically.
Sloan would be treated to the following sight just a few seconds after witnessing Goroth. Because you've been tracking the creatures, the flying creatures' descent, you can see when they are probably 3 stories over your head. The creature's muzzle has been bucking predictably as it is running. And because of that, using the bucking of the muzzle kind of like a trampoline boost, your warp spasm activates. And to Sloan's eyes, it would look like his legs grotesquely and hideously enlarge for the moment, causing him to fly up into the air with a power completely unprompted, even by his massive and powerful physique. Now, while Sloan ponders that for the moment, Goroth is sailing up through the air, and as he is sailing up, he can actually get a much closer look at these creatures. They are flying snakes, ridden by contingents of 3 soldiers each.
Whoa!
The snakes themselves are broad-bodied, and have what look like a classic triangular-shaped heads, but you are coming up from right underneath one of them. Its body is wider around than you are, even, I mean, current quadriceps not included, of course. And so what would you like to do as you're rocketing up towards this thing from below?
Well, quick question. Can I see how they fly? Since
Yes,
they're snake-like.
They
Do
are
they have
flying
wings?
with great feathery wings, almost like the wings of a crane, long and elegant.
Okay. Then yeah, I'm gonna fly up directly toward the belly. But I want to try and like grab onto anything I can as I get there.
Do you want to grab onto the wing joint?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Something like that I can like grab on. Even better if it's something that I can like swing myself up, but I understand if that's not possible.
Yeah, the body itself is kind of awkwardly large around like a big log, and so it's kind of hard to get that. However, grabbing the wing joint, you feel the creature immediately kind of lurch to the side, clearly not expecting this sudden redistribution of weight. Now that you kind of pendulum with the wing as it slumps, immediate follow-up actions. You hear cries from the riders.
So I've got my axe in my other hand. I'm gonna use like the bottom sort of hook of the blade as like a pick, you know, like
like a climbing pick.
Yeah.
And hooking around its body and starting to haul yourself up, you can see that the riders have all kind of like if you've seen like jockeys get like really low to their horse, they're clearly used to this thing like barreling, even if they weren't ready for it doing it right now, and they're all low and kind of prone, like clenched in positions. You come up right next to one of them who doesn't even see you because of how he is clenched in.
Left hand is free, punch to the face.
A powerful 2-might punch to the face is enough to loosen his grip and cause him to start tumbling away, one hand still holding the set of reins or harnesses or whatever that he was clenched into. But from this point, you're in like enough of a vantage point that you're not in an imminent danger of falling off of this thing. Though you do feel it starting to like maybe think about barreling further. Immediate follow-up actions from here. You don't have anyone else immediately in punching range. You have a guy in front of you and a guy behind you.
I'm gonna grab my spatha out of its sheath and stab probably whatever's to the right, I guess.
Yep. And to the right would be the guy behind you, who, as you stab towards him, you can see that he did see your ascent. He kind of shears away from the blade and falls off the back of the serpent, still holding its harness in his hand as he plunges. This is the point at which
Drop the harness.
Oh, excellent idea. This is the point at which the first guy you punched off, clearly the harness that he was still holding tightens at the point which is visible to you, as his weight jerks on the far end, and the flying snake does a massive like dip in the air as it gets like this sudden impulse of weight that it wasn't expecting once again.
Yeah. Try to just hold on at this point.
And as you hold on, you feel it start to plummet down in like a controlled dive.
Can I get at anything else at the moment, or is it too?
You have a wing kind of like around you, but you've knocked off the guy in front of you and the guy to your right. The guy to your left, who's the guy at the head of the snake, still has his back to you and is not quite within effect. Like you could tickle his butt, but you couldn't do much more than that.
I'm just gonna try to climb towards him, like crawl towards him.
Absolutely. After 1-2 pulls, you are close, but it's at this point that the snake, pulling a number of G's in the process, like comes out of its fall in like a sudden, like a, how do I describe it? Like a slinky pit stop. And as it so does, you can hear like a thud and a slither as it hits the deck of the howdah, and its wings retract around you.
Start trying to chop my way out.
And as you do so, with an enraged hiss, you can see its head curl back on itself and its mouth open wide, baring its fangs. It has a, I don't know if you've seen those fish where when it opens its mouth, like the gums stick out wildly to make the mouth look bigger than it is. Think that for this thing as well.
Terrifying. But yeah, I'm just gonna scream in its face.
And as you do so, with a yell, the guy who was in front of you, who was riding it, who you were about to reach, like rolls off of the snake to the side to get out of the way as it dives back on itself, going for your head with a wild bite.
Ooh. So I'm gonna throw myself back and just like swing my blades up at it.
Ooh, interesting. And as you do so, its head like is pretty much against your face by the time you finish the strike. Your spatha has trouble at this awkward angle getting through its scales, but your great axe hooks into the top of its head. So it is kind of like you're sandwiched underneath it, but with its body behind you and its head on top of you. But with your great axe hooked in, it can't pull its head away from you without dragging you with it.
Oh, then I'm gonna hang on for dear life.
And it pulls back, dragging you with it. You feel yourself being pulled into the air, and it gives a mighty thrash of its head to try to get you off. However, it's a big snake. It's not like an enormous snake, and because of that, it doesn't have the power at this weird angle for its neck to get a heavy-ass orc off of its head. You know what I mean?
Nice. I'm gonna let go of my spatha and grab out a spear and like jab it in to like balance myself.
And managing to get the spearhead into the top of its head as well, you hear an awful like squeal emit from it. Not a hiss, but more like feral than that, so to speak. At this point, we are going to jump back over to Sloan and then Trezden, because things are about to happen. Sloan first, though. Reason being is you heard the crash landing. You did not hear the flying creatures. They flew perfectly silently, and the wind was high, nor were you looking up. But you can hear the weird like rustle and then the smash of the snake hitting the deck, which if you're at 12 o'clock, noon on the clock face, this would be at like 7 o'clock behind you and to your left.
Okay, the way I pictured it was I saw him and his grotesque quads getting ready to do the jump. And then when he launched himself, when Goroth launched himself, that would have caught my attention for a couple of seconds. Absolutely. There, just out of sheer what the... And then I probably would have tracked him up as high as I could. So would I have seen them at that point when he launched himself up?
That's a fantastic point. And actually, I completely forgot about that. Yeah, in that case, you would have seen this happening sooner. You would see the flying figure up above. And because of that, too, fortunately, it doesn't change what he just did, but it changes some other things.
Right.
So you would see him, like, cling on to the flying serpent, but also you would see the two other serpents alongside the one that he grabbed onto. The one he grabs onto kind of dips out of formation, but the other two start to circle in tight. They were, like, quite high, circling like a low-flying vulture, but they start to swoop in much lower as they wing their way around behind you, clearly angling to sweep back in towards the front of the beast where your Trezden, of course, as well as Lears are still stationed.
There would have been just a couple of seconds of me kind of doing like a fireworks watch, you know, when he went up, and it would have been kind of a ooh type thing, just because it's an amazing thing to have happen in front of you. But as soon as I noticed the swirling of the other two, I think I would have very quickly retrieved that rifle again and then prepared to try and take another one of them down, because they're obviously a threat that's coming in hard and fast.
Absolutely. they fly very smoothly despite the high winds. Though as they get lower, they clearly encounter the weird turbulence that's happening at ground level at the moment. And so because of that, they're flying fast, they're flying silent, they're flying relatively smooth. You are able to track them, but given that it's like, multiple hundreds of feet of a shot, it's not the easiest shot in the world. So how do you want to time this? When do you want to wait to, and where are you aiming on it?
Okay, I'm assuming that the platform that I'm on is rocking like a ship at this point with the movements of the beast. So I'm going to have to time that movement with the flight path of those flying snakes.
Absolutely.
But the thing that I'm going to have to keep in mind is that I need them to be closer in order to get the best possible shot I can get. Are they circling out of sight behind and then reappearing again as they circle?
Right.
So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to try and time this rather than try and track them like a corkscrew. If I can predict where they're going to come out and make an appearance next as they descend, I'm going to aim straight ahead, and hopefully when they fly in front of me, or in front of the aiming of my rifle, I'll have a better shot a better chance of being able to get a shot that will take one of them down.
Absolutely. And for timing, are you trying to think of it as like a literally Sloan counting in his head, or is it going to be more intuitive than that?
I don't think that I'm going to be counting. It's going to be more intuitive. I mean, this is shooting at moving targets has been something that Sloan has done for forever.
Yeah.
Back at the circus, there was a spinning wheel. We'll get into that detail sometime in the future. But shooting a moving target is something that I think that he would not be uncomfortable trying to accomplish. It's really going to be a question of timing. And the timing of the beast movement, the timing of the serpent moving directly in front of the rifle or close to the front of the rifle, and then timing that shot as it goes by.
Absolutely. Remind me your luck stat.
Luck is 0.
Absolutely. In that case, as you feel the timing coming in, you hear the crash land. Thud, like a big thud on the lower deck, kind of behind you and to your right. It would definitely be enough to jerk you from your current concentration. How would you want to recollect yourself, and where would you want to redirect your attention to?
That would be one of these, a type thing, just because that I would perceive that as a threat automatically.
Yep.
But as soon as I see what might be there, I got to be honest with you, I would have to stop and reassess what's going on, because that would jar me to the point of having to start my timing process all over again. So you're just going to have to give me a few seconds there to regroup myself.
Absolutely. I'll give you a description of what you see, although it's kind of obstructed by the build of the howdah because it fell a little ways back from where you are at the front. You see one of the flying snakes has landed. You hear grunting and thrashing, and then a horrible, eerie, hissing squeal emit from the thing. And you can see its head lifting with a blade embedded in it. That's what you get a glimpse of from here. What do you want to do?
My assumption is going to be that Goroth has this under control. If he can just make that leap that he made to take this thing down, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and think he doesn't need any help with that.
Indeed.
So my attention's going to have to turn to the other two creatures. I'm just going to have to locate them.
You do not have the perfect timing anymore. They're already in your field of view again. However, you can see both of them are circling out towards the head of the war beast and getting close. They have forked, with one going towards Trezden and the other going towards Lears.
Then I'm going to use the rifle to track the one that's headed to Trezden.
Yep. And as you track in, where are you going to try to hit on this thing? It has 3 riders, and it obviously has its triangular head and its rather thick body.
I'm going to assume, though, that the head is away from me as opposed to being toward me. Is that correct?
You are correct in that assessment, yeah.
So the head is going to be the trickiest shot. Do I get the feeling that one of the riders are directing the movements of this creature? Is he pulling on a rein? Is he moving his body to try and move the thing in a certain direction?
You can see that all of them have harnesses, but only one has his arms out.
Okay, that's the one that I'm going to try and take a shot at.
And are you just trying to hit anywhere on him?
It's going to be whether or not I feel confident at this distance at this movement. If I feel like shooting it in the head is going to be something that's going to be really, really difficult, if nothing else, if I hit it in the body, hit the creature in the or the human in the body, it might disrupt what he's doing. So I'll probably go for the biggest target that I can get.
Okay. And with you've given me so much excellent detail. You're accounting for the movement of the creature. You've been setting down your sharps rifle to enhance your vision that much more. Ready to take the shot?
Yeah, yeah.
It snaps in your hands. The gun goes off, and you can see a twitch of movement. And then you can see the rider's one of his hands leap from the reins and jump to his stomach.
Nice. Nice. Okay.
You can
Cool.
see that the creature deviates off path for a moment, but he like lurches the reins back to try to redirect it back on path. Do you have immediate follow-ups from here?
Just making sure the rifle's reloaded and then getting ready to take another shot.
Absolutely. Before we go further, Trezden, you have been engaged in this wild wind direction movement for some time. You can feel a sweat building through your body, though a pleasant aerobics style sweat rather than a nasty.
Oh, this is going to make me look so svelte.
Indeed.
It's incredible.
But also, more than that, you can feel the wind that you have built is quite powerful. It's an isolated, focused wind, as you have been describing. You don't have the sensory to see exactly what it's doing to the swale and its defenses yet, but you know that this is a strong wind. This is like hurricane level winds, though not like high hurricane, like low hurricane level winds at this point.
I am in direct opposition to the awareness my compatriots have to what's going on. I am solely focused on the thunder of the feet, the rhythm. I'm building to a crescendo, and this swale is not going to stop this beast if I have anything to say about it.
Absolutely. The swale is coming close, and so describe to me your crescendo.
So I feel like I can see the air at this point. It's so fast, it's visible.
Precisely, yeah.
And I'm condensing it right in front of me, trying to pull all that speed into like one tight spot, one focus, and I want to shove it as hard as I can into that swale, shoving whatever is in the swale, whatever traps are in it, clearing it all off to the sides as much as I can to make a path ahead for this
you
beast.
have a lot of force going into this. It sounds almost like you're also going for integration of a thunderclap into this. Does that sound?
I will any thunderclap, even a flash of lightning, whatever I can do to make this as dramatic as possible. Whether it actually helps or makes me feel better about it, which probably helps it in some superfluous way, it is going to involve the thunder, the lightning, and I hope everyone is not doing something else and is watching me do this.
And what is going to be the paired action that concludes this? How are you going to sign off the crescendo from your waving arms dance that you've been doing leading up to this point?
So I no, both arms come up as I'm pushing it all together, and I picture like the entire robe shifts back, freezes almost still for a moment, like I can't even hear the sound, and then just everything just convulses forward in a rapid, like my hair, everything just boom, and it maybe sends. I picture myself being sent off the horn right back towards the.
You took the words
where our
right
friend
out
Lears
of my
is.
mouth. That was guaranteed.
But I'm intending it to be that way because it
course.
shows how powerful my attack actually is in my mind.
Naturally. I will say, as you go sailing backwards through the air with wind searing through your ears and cold ripping at your cheeks, it's euphoric for that one moment.
I can hear the music continuing like through its swell of its crescendo in my ears as I fly backwards.
Indeed. And as you do so, you go skidding across the wood of the howdah, turn a couple cartwheels, and then slam into the hump of the beast that rises up to the upper platform that, unbeknownst to you, Sloan is on. So you crash into a hard but ultimately woolly surface.
Fully intentional.
Lovely.
Fully intentional.
After collecting yourself, do you have any immediate follow-up actions? And by collecting out yourself, I don't mean getting your hair back to how it should be. I mean you're able to act.
So I'm obviously I want to see what I've just done to the swale. We are approaching the swale, and I'm hoping that it does not stop us at this point.
Absolutely. And looking forward, you can see that your surge of force has physically dented the earthworks. It's taken a scoop out of it, like blasted a scoop out of it forwards. And as the woolly rhino approaches it, you can see up ahead of you Lears's body contort into almost a fetal position before loosing back out, and the creature jumps.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
a rhinoceros jumping is not the most elegant thing in the world. And it seems as though he puts some of his own strength and determination into this creature doing this. And it jumps with just enough height to get its front legs onto the little like ledge that you've cut out for it. And it starts to haul itself up. But the jump causes you to, of course, like bounce up into the air in your, at the moment, prone position. How are you going to recover from this as you are falling back?
I want this to be as graceful as possible.
Do you have a reflex stat?
My reflex is no bonuses.
Do you
I have a vigor.
skill stat?
I have a skill stat and a luck
thank
stat.
goodness. Okay, and that's really, really useful here. So, with skill and luck, that's going to help this be a little more graceful. So, how do you want to land this?
I would like to land the same way I entered through the teleportation in the superhero landing.
Yep.
Even when I'm sliding back, whatever it is,
of course.
One hand, one knee, one hand, and I look up to see if anyone saw that.
You can see a bloodied, brutalized barbarian woman looking at you, puzzled, lashed to the beast as well, and she says, "Who in the name of the winds are you?"
Trezden, I'm a friend of the winds. Hang on, and I get up.
Before we go further, let's check back in with Goroth. So, you have just got a spear into the top of the snake's head as well. It's unleashed this awful scream. What do you want to do as you're kind of hanging off of the side of its head?
Is it at all possible to reach my other spear?
If you leave your axe in place, yes.
Is it buried in pretty good?
It's hucked in pretty nicely, yeah.
Okay, cool. Then yeah, I'm gonna leave it there for a minute, grab the spear, and shout out like, "Feel my fangs, beast!" And I want to.
You feel it struggle underneath you. It is powerful and a massive creature, but you kind of have it over your knees, so to speak. And with it, you always having a point of leverage and a hook into it, you are able to stab as blood spurts from its head, and it finally stops moving, unleashing one last withering scream as it does.
Yeah. Raise my spears in furious
success.
And from here, what do you want to do? Its body is now slumped over your legs, so you're kind of stuck in a seated position while its mass is on you.
Start trying to push it off, looking for my next enemy.
And looking around, there's quite a few at this point. First of all, the rider is on his feet. You can see that he's a little ways away from you, and in the dark you can't really be sure what he's doing, but he is facing you and not moving at the very moment, or not moving his legs. You can't tell what he's doing with his upper body. However, since you scan the sky as well, there are a number of other flyers. In fact, that second group of 3 is swooping down in towards the upper platform at this moment. And the upper platform is above you, and from your current vantage point, you're facing it, so it's like above you and in front, with the rider to your right, past the dead snake, and then the other flying snakes coming in over your left shoulder.
I'm gonna throw one of my spears at the rider that's still alive, and then just try and push myself out from under the snake.
You see that he dives out of the way. Given that your legs were pinned, it wasn't a brilliant throw, and so, but it does give you enough time to get the snake off of you and haul yourself up to your feet. He comes back around the corner, and you feel a very uncomfortable feeling in your chest.
Ooh.
And you can see that there's a small flechette embedded in it. And then another, and then another.
Probably try to like take cover behind the dead snake if I can.
Absolutely doable. The flechettes are small, and they only seem to have barely pierced your skin, but they are very painful.
Pull them out.
Pulling them out proves to be a bad idea that you only realize after you pull all of them out. They were horribly barbed, and you are gushing blood from them.
Bastards.
Now, after pulling them out, you don't know what the rider's doing. Certainly can't hear his footsteps with all the wind and the rumbling. But before we go further than that, suddenly the floor vanishes from under you as you are sent hurling into the air by the beast jumping. You're in midair. The snake body is in midair. Everything's in midair for the moment. How do you want to land this?
I want to use one of my spears to like jab it into the snake's body to like as a handle.
Yeah, kind
catch
of
myself.
hold on for dear life handle. And then crash. As you slam back into the deck of the Howdah, you feel the snake's weight break the platform under you.
Uh-oh.
What do you want to do as this thing starts to go? You still have your spear in its head.
How far is it down?
It's a drop.
Oh man, my axe is in there.
My
Classic berserker problems. My weapons can't keep up with me.
I'm gonna pull the spear out and try to scramble back away from the collapsing platform.
Absolutely.
If at all possible.
This kind of undignified scramble, it turns out, is a pretty effective way of getting out from it just in time as it crumbles away with the snake's weight bringing it down. You manage to get just free of just shy of the danger zone with a spear still in hand. You can see that the rider with his, whatever was launching the flechettes at you, is standing on the other side of this gap now. What do you want to do?
I'm going to point at him like, "You're next!"
And after roaring this at him, he responds with a flechette to your shoulder.
Yeah. Bastard! I'm going to charge at him.
There's a big gap between you two. Not a completely unfeasible gap, mind you, but 15-ish feet.
Is there any rigging or anything like that to swing around on?
Absolutely. Hugging the war beast's body, there's still a good number of lashings.
And that'll get me over the gap, hopefully, if
Indeed.
I could. Yeah.
So how are you going to contend with these lashings?
Is there any... I'm imagining some of the... What's the word that I'm thinking of? Scaffolding, sort of like wood scaffolding, something like that?
Yes. You can see that on this side of the beast, there is a scaffolding that is clearly used to climb up onto that upper platform above you, which makes it a good deal more maneuverable than in some of the other sections where it's mostly just heavy dowels.
Yeah, so probably try to use that as much as possible to make my way over, but I really don't want to get hit with any more flechettes. Dang, maybe I'm just gonna go up and try to get above him. Yeah.
And as you are climbing up, we're going to jump back over to Sloan. A whole lot's going to happen, so because Sloan's behind us in time, so he's going to have to contend with a couple different things. Now, first of all, Sloan, after your initial shot, the rider has tried to regain the reins and get the beast back on track. You're chambering another round. What do you want to do? Right. You can see that he's clearly wounded, judging by his body posture, but the beast, the winged snake, is back on track, going towards Trezden.
So the head of the beast is still in front of is away from me.
At this point, it is actually circling to the point where it is now about level with the rest of the body to you.
Okay, then at this point I want to take a shot at the head of the creature itself.
Yep. And given that you've done all of these excellent calculations, you prepared yourself so well, you do manage to get it in the head. You hear you see it open its mouth, its weird membranous side jaws telescope out wildly, and it gives this unearthly squealing scream. And you can see that rather than diving down, it pulls up and starts to fly back up towards the sky. And it's at this point that there is an ungodly boom. The wind streaks around you, and you like your hat goes off. Anything that isn't tied down on you is off of you at this point. There's a streak around you, and you can see that just ahead of you. You can see Lear's wife is like strained against her lashings as she is almost blown off the creature, and probably would have been had she not been connected to it. And up ahead, at the head on the horn, you can see Trezden sailing ever so potentially elegantly backwards as a great swell of force has blasted a chunk out of the swale up ahead. He crashes into the platform below you, and you can't see him anymore. What would Sloan like to do?
First thing that Sloan's going to do is say, "What the hell?" as that entire thing takes place.
Indeed.
But then the next thing I'm going to be doing is my biggest concern. Can I see Goroth at all? He's down at the level below us, right?
Yes, he is, and he's also kind of behind you and to your left. So you'd have to
So I wouldn't
move a little bit to see him.
I don't want to have to move to see him. My concern is these creatures that seem to be attacking Lears and his wife.
Yeah.
That's where my focus is. So I'm going to load up another shot and then patiently wait until one of these creatures gets closer to one of those two targets again.
You sure don't have to wait for long. There are immediate troubles that you can see even as you're reloading. First of all, like I said, there were two that had been circling in the direction of the front of the beast. One of them you shot. The other one was almost on top of Lear's when that blast of force actually knocked it off track, and it's currently recircling to reestablish a target. Closer than that, though, is a group of 3 of them, which have circled down from out of the sky and are bearing down on the top platform, clearly aiming mostly towards Lear's wife, but you're pretty much right next to her at the same time.
If that's the case, then it's time for me to do something a little bit more focused. The rifle is going to have to go out if they're coming that close. So the rifle gets slung as quickly as Sloan can do it.
Yep.
If I can. And then the pistol's going to have to come to my hand in shootout, and I'm going to open up on these things as soon as they get close enough to really do some damage to the head of the creatures.
Absolutely. And so in that case, since shootout requires like that pause and then a flurry of actions, I kind of imagine this as you like taking stock of your situations, noticing the ones coming in, and then kind of waiting for them to get closer like you just described before then activating shootout. Is that roughly correct?
That's exactly it. I mean, there would have been a change of mindset with Sloan when he noticed that the ones were coming, that there were more of them that were coming in to attack the wife. It would have been a calm change of situation, sling the rifle, wait, focus, and then as soon as they get within a range that Sloan is comfortable with, that's when the pistol comes out in a flourish and he lets loose with as many shots as he can get into the creatures.
Absolutely. And bringing your pistol to bear, a flurry of shots as you fan the hammer start to fly out across the dark, windy skies. Now, given that you're not particularly aiming, taking the time to super cautiously aim these shots, right, a lot of them are going to miss, especially because these are bearing down straight towards you, and they're long, right? So you only pretty much have their head and kind of like the wings-ish to work with, but those are thin, so the riders are going to eat a lot of these as well. And you can see that for the most part, just in the spray that you do as they are coming in, it's mostly affecting the riders and a little bit the heads of the beasts. But the heads of the beasts are so like streamlined that a lot of the blows are glancing off of them. It's at this point, however, that your legs vanish from under you as you are flung into the air and the creature jumps.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that my skill and reflex is going to, this is my goal, whether or not it succeeds or not. I want to be launched into the air, and I want to continue firing as I get launched into the air. If I can feel my knees starting to be flexed by this creature doing either what I assume might be a jump or whatever, as soon as I feel my knees being forced to flex, I want to go with it, launch myself up into the air, and continue firing as they come closer and closer.
And you're the only character in this group who I will say unquestioningly that works. And as this also getting this like moment or two of height actually lets you shoot from a much more favorable angle too, letting you hit some of the creature's wings from the flat side, getting a little more of the riders, getting along their backs. And so it's kind of a productive situation for Sloan rather than the other two. However, how are you going to deal with the landing? That's definitely more of a concern.
The landing is going to have to be, as Trezden was mentioning, it's going to have to be the superhero landing where as I come back down, I'm going to have to hopefully feel my feet connect and flex the knees down to launch to drop down into that one knee, 1 foot, one hand on the ground thing. I'm assuming that I will be able to shoot until I hit the highest point of my launch. Then I'm going to have to start focusing on landing properly back on the beast below me.
Absolutely.
And just hope for the best on that.
That makes abundant sense. And as you go into land, you find that the throw has brought you a little backwards, and you go crashing onto the hide and fabric canopy of this uppermost platform on the howdah, which means that you're landing on a surface that gives below you. This obviously would throw you off balance, but not completely sent tumbling. So how would you want to? You have the skill and reflex to kind of contend with this a bit. So how would you want to try to react to this?
The first thing I'm going to do is I've had a firearm in my hand since I was a small child. That's going to be almost glued into my hand.
Indeed.
That's only going to allow me to have one arm and one hand to reach for something to grab onto. Gotta say that hoping with skill and reflex that there's just going to be something that I can grab onto, be it lashings or rope or some kind of one of the climbing pieces of wood that's on the side of the creature, the netting, whatever, just reaching out as best I can to grab something to keep from falling. And my only goal at this point is to stop from falling.
Absolutely. And you crash into the canopy, you tumble backwards, your hand goes for something, and you do manage to grab onto a lashing, but you also have enough momentum to send you head over, or heels over head in this case, kind of doing like a impromptu backwards roll until you are now hanging off of this canopy.
Nice. What's below me on the hanging from the canopy? What is below me? Is it just open air?
So this is the canopy that is on the edge of this upper platform. Below you should be the lower platform, except you're hanging over the side that Trezden blew out at the very beginning of the mission. So there is an open hole below you.
Oh, sure, blame me.
Then
I see how this is.
What I'm going to have to do is my goal then is to try and do a maneuver to haul myself back up with that one arm. I mean, if I can pocket the revolver and then grab the same thing that I'm hanging on to with my other hand, then give myself some leverage to launch myself back up to that top platform, because I don't want to leave the woman behind.
Absolutely. With a quick maneuver, you pull yourself up, but as you're pulling yourself up, you aren't able to do it with the acrobatic aplomb you did.
The acrobatic, cool-looking thing. Yeah, I get that.
You're tired at this point. You're starting to feel it. And so because of that, you can get yourself back up, but your stamina at this point is in the yellow.
Yep.
Now, before we go further, now that we have actually all caught up in time, that's not going to last for long. Let's jump back over to Trezden. Now, you have just introduced yourself, and after your quick little one-liner, you can see that there is action, as hostiles are pretty much right on top of you guys at the moment. This would be your first time really seeing them, I believe. There are a handful of bizarre winged snakes that are bearing down on this topmost platform, but they aren't actually sweeping in to get you themselves. Instead, the guys on their backs are jumping off like paratroopers.
All right. And I'm surrounded?
In this case, not yet surrounded. You have what look like 6 soldiers coming down from above you, and not like a perfect ring around you, but like flanking you on multiple sides once they will land.
Do I think that a thunderclap could possibly send their dropping off the sides of the beast as opposed to onto the beast?
Ooh. Thunderclap, that's an excellent question. Thunderclap is currently on cooldown since you very recently used it.
Okay. And let's see. God, I've been burning through so many of my powers
You
here.
have.
All right, I have a pocket full of thunder, and it's going to play. I unzip my fanny pack.
Yep.
I reach in. 1, 2, 3. 3 work. Take out 3 into my fingers. Throw them a little bit.
And as you throw out it feels like you would have thunderbolts that would lend themselves to this like more flourishy sort of throw, you know?
Oh yeah, they are like a hot pink color, and when
Yeah.
they flash, they go to a yellow and then to
Beautiful.
a deep red.
Couldn't ask for
Very,
better.
very.
3 bolts arc across the sky, and you see that they gladly gravitate to the currently very lightning-friendly paratroopers, frying 3 of them, but the remaining 3 safely descend at a rapid but controlled pace and thud into the deck around you. You see that these paratroopers seem quite heavily armored, more heavily armored than the soldiers that you fought earlier, and also rather than the tridents and maces, you see that they have, much like your own weapons, heavy gauntlets with vicious blades arcing across the fingers. As they land around you, other immediate actions. You've thrown your bolts, they are dropping in and land moments thereafter. What would you like to do immediately as they do?
I put my hand at my fanny pack again, and I say, I got a whole pocket full of these things, guys. If I were you, run along.
And at this point, we're going to jump back over to Goroth. Reason being is that you have, without getting flechetted again, managed to climb up onto this middle platform, and to your left, you see the paratroopers drop down, with another one falling past you off the beast, like with char going off of him as he does. What would you like to do from here?
How many are there?
3.
3?
None of them are currently facing you. They seem very well armored.
Cool. Let's see. So my axe fell off the beast. 1 spear is somewhere down below. Not sure where my spatha is, so I've got a spear.
Spath is gone. You have a spear.
Yeah, spatha is the easiest thing to reacquire, at least. Well, anyway, given my spear, I am just going to run towards them, like, more excited than anything that there are more enemies.
Indeed.
And so I'm actually going to use this to enter Furor.
Yep.
By going berserk at the sight of more enemies here, charging at them with my 1 spear.
And as you do so, I was actually literally about to say, Goroth, you are quite exhausted at this point.
Yeah.
Rescind that statement. You're feeling great. As the rage starts to engulf your body and you sprint towards them, a roar escapes you. I will say, Trezden, this would capture your eyes as well. Your little line to the 3 paratroopers held them at bay for just a moment, and then over their shoulders, you see Goroth start to sprint towards them. You hear his roar, and the paratroopers all turn towards him in spite of themselves.
Can I throw in a little quip? Oh, everybody, beat Goroth.
Do you have any follow-ups after saying so? Or pardon,
Me or him?
Do you have any follow-ups after saying so?
After saying that,
Yes.
I pick up one of the lightning, kind of play with it in my hand.
Mm-hmm. This would be. I think this is your last one because you've expended 4.
Right. Yes.
Yep.
They don't need to know I'm on my last one.
Indeed.
I have a pocket full of them.
2 of the paratroopers that are closer to Goroth start to rush to engage him, and the third one tears his eyes away and goes back towards you. His bladed gloves come up in front of him in like a loose boxing stance as his body gets low and he goes into dive. He looks like he's trying to get low on your body. And he's close enough that he can lunge into you.
I want to use my last sparkly.
Do you want to have a moment to think about that? I'll check in with Goroth while you're doing so. Yeah, let's hear from Goroth then.
All right. Yeah.
You have two enemies. They seem, just from the way they move, in Goroth's like wild mind, he can see their movements in a practiced predatory manner. These two are not prey animals. Obviously, you don't have brilliant control of yourself in this state, but what would, roughly speaking, you like to do?
I think he's primarily going to be using the spear as a melee weapon. It's going to give him a bit more length, it seems, than his opponents, who are more like have shorter claws, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably trying to utilize that to start taking like poking shots at them, trying to find their weak points.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you come closer and do a couple of these exploratory jabs, you can see that one of them quite proficiently grabs the head of your spear with his bladed gauntlet and locks his other arm around it and wrenches it actually clean out of your hands, despite your great strength.
You bastard. Wrenched out of hands.
The other one is rushing in low and on your right.
I think wait just for that second as the one starts to rush in, and as it starts to come in, actually like move in this way with like a, I don't know if you know Muay Thai, but like a elbow this way.
Yeah.
So like try and like catch him in the face with the elbow.
You feel your elbow smash into his helmet. It hurts, right? But in your current state, that pain simply deepens your rage. Immediate follow-ups after smashing your elbow into his head. It clearly has stunned him, but you can do immediate follow-ups from here. You have the energy to do so.
Yeah, then probably grab the head and go for the knee.
Yep. Slamming his head into your knee. Immediate follow-ups from there. You don't even know what's happening at this point. You're just doing stuff.
Yeah. Slamming the head down into the ground and turning toward the other opponent.
You can see that as you turn towards the other opponent, he's practically on top of you. Gut reaction, what do you want to do? Just knowing he is there in your face.
So I don't know what this is called, but like the double ear clap like this. They're like bursting the eardrums.
Slap before.
Yeah, just like a...
Yeah. Slamming your hands onto either side of his helmet, immediate follow-ups. Discombobulate. Exactly.
Let's see, Sam. Probably try to just grab his arms to like control his hands, stop from getting stabbed.
And after you grab his arms, what do you want to do from here?
Can I headbutt him?
You certainly can.
There we go.
Plowing your head into the helmet. Whee! Lord knows the number of times I've done that. And you can feel again, the pain deepens the trance. And you barely even feel it beyond just the sense of your rage growing more and more profoundly impactful. At this point, Sloan, you have clambered back on top of this upper level, and you notice three things as you do so. First of all, the winged snakes are flying away, each with only one rider. Second of all, the war beast you're on is no longer climbing. Its gait has evened out again as it has crested that first defensive barrier. Third of all, indeed. Third of all, ahead of you, you see unmistakably Goroth gushing blood from his stomach. As he is grabbing an armored, blade-gauntleted man by the hands, and is cramming his head into the man's helmet. Just absolutely blasting this man with headbutts while screaming like a demon.
Again, I take a quick second to be impressed by Goroth's actions.
Sloan's been impressed by a lot of people on this one.
Well, he's somebody who can appreciate when he sees the abilities of these other people. It's something that does make him stop and take a pause, just a brief one. to process and also hopefully think into the future about, what strategies might evolve with the group based on what he's seeing. So
Yep.
I like the character to take time to internalize, just a split second to internalize that kind of a thing that appears.
Absolutely.
But it's time for, with my stamina dropping a little bit, it's time as well for Sloan to, even with everything that's going on around him, he needs to refocus, because that was a stressful, crazy thing that he just ended up having to finish and do.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to, so what he's going to do is, if he's upright on two legs, one of his calming maneuvers is to throw back the duster, pull out the revolver, spin it, and put it back so that everything is set, everything is where it's supposed to be for
Yep.
him mentally. Then I need to slowly focus my gunslinger abilities, and I need to start heading back to the target that I'm trying, or the person that I'm trying to protect, the woman who is helping her husband to guide this beast. So even though there's chaos going on around me, and Goroth, in my mind at this point, is more than capable of handling himself in this situation. Can I see Trezden?
He is currently blocked by like the highest point of the howdah that obstructs your vision to the very front from your current vantage.
I didn't think that I could see him, but I just wanted to make sure
course.
of that. So without being able to see him and render any assistance to him that might be needed, my only focus is to get back to the woman who is helping her husband,
Yep.
because that's kind of my self-appointed task.
Certainly.
But I'm doing this in a calm manner, trying to brush off all of the chaos that's going on around me so that I can refocus my energies and make sure that I'm prepared for whatever might happen. That's
Totally makes
what
sense.
I'm doing right now.
And Trezden, actions from you. Now that you've had a moment to think
Alright.
about how you want to proceed from here.
So I put the lighting back in my pouch and pulled the zip closed. And said, "You're not worth that." I am relying on my vigor, a little bit of luck, and the wind on my back to keep myself. I'm trying to outpace this guy, basically. I like to stay out. He's looks like he's gonna come at me with his gauntlets, right?
Mm.
So I want to lead him towards the edge, and I want to stay just out of. Is he trying to hit? Is he trying to grab? What is he trying to do?
Well, after you put your bolt away and say that, you see that he actually loses his stance for a moment, and he says, "Stand aside, Outlander. She must die, or this beast will be the ruin of my home."
So suddenly, I'm something about what we're supposed to be doing clicks in my head a little bit. Well, I'm not gonna let her. I'm gonna keep myself between the two of them.
He says, "What stake have you in this war? These beasts, these savages come and take and kill and destroy and leave nothing in their wake. Is that what you want of the world?"
You just don't get it, do you? I'm slowly. I know I'm on the. Well, actually, it's been a little while since I've used my thunder glove.
Hmm.
I'm slowly charging it up while I delay this guy. I want as much of an oomph in it as possible when it comes to having to hit him when he comes at the woman.
Yeah.
So I'm probably not the most articulate, intelligent kind of a guy, but I'm gonna start singing a little song to the guy.
What song is this?
Probably not just a tune, something I've heard on the wind. Probably not any real lyrics to it, more of a la-di-da kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
But I am just trying to confuse him, delaying him long enough to build up a charge in my glove.
You can see that his eyes through his helmet harden. And he says, "Some trickster god who delights only in chaos, no doubt."
Take a step towards her and you'll find out, my friend.
And he doesn't. Instead, he lunges towards you. He goes forward in like a quick two-step into a low thrust with one shoulder forwards and the other hand ready to try to plunge those blades into your stomach. What do you want to do? He comes in fast
going up.
and proficiently. Pardon?
I'm going up.
Ah,
You see, he's going down. I'm going up.
And how do you want to do so?
I will fling my cloak into him. I'll be very upset. He's going to tear my cloak some, but I will let him hit fabric so he can't clearly see me going up. I'm going to use my my feathered cloak, which I can gain. Allows the user to glide, and I'm going to use that combined with my winged shoes to just kind of step up. I'm hoping I can get up above him so nothing hits me.
Yep, quick get up above and like get over his head sort of thing.
Yep, and kind of block his view with the cloak.
I remember you saying you were kind of backing towards the edge while you were talking with him. Is that
I was trying to lure him to the edge because I was hoping he'd try to grab me.
That's what I kind of remember you saying. Him going low does put him right up against the edge as you're going over his head. He like regains himself and is starting to pivot to try to get a sense of where you are. But your cloak has done a little bit of its job of being a vision blocker, enough so that he doesn't have a perfect bearing of where you are as you get over his head. Immediate follow-ups as you are in midair.
Do I think is he close enough to an edge? Can I give him a good old hitting his big old stupid metal helmet and send him with my electrical charged glove over the side?
From your current position up, you'd have to do like a complete pivot down to get into him.
Oh, no guts, no glory. Let's go for it.
Like twisting yourself in
Puts
midair.
it up, and then just bend over.
Yep.
Probably hear a couple of my vertebrae snap a little bit. Like, oh, I should have stretched before we started this. I'm going for it.
Now, I will say it's with reflex. This could have been a whole lot easier, but at least you have the skill to help it land, even if it's not pretty. I will note that as he goes sailing over the edge, flying down onto the lower decks from the sudden blasting zap, you land like right on the edge that he just went over and blew out the lashings that actually made a railing there. How are you going to make sure you don't go over with him? Because you came down at a very awkward angle. You were off balance.
So I blasted part of the railing. Can I reach any of the surviving balusters?
Yeah, just like reach out your non-gauntlet handed
With a leg, with an arm. It's not going to be my most stunning photograph moment. But I have a feeling I'm gonna have to settle for just hooking a foot around something to make sure I don't go face first down on top of the guy.
You know, I like that. Your left arm and your right leg, your right toe kind of hooks around one lashing, your left arm gets the other, and you kind of like Y in position.
Yep.
But you do, it does stop you
I'm a little ashamed of my position at the moment.
But you can
no one
push
can see you.
And actually, this would be the point at which Sloan kind of comes trotting up behind you guys. So Sloan would catch the very end of this as he blasts the paratrooper over the edge and catches himself awkwardly from falling too.
We don't talk about this part.
Is it to me?
Yes.
Yes.
Sloan is going to have to just look at him with a raised eyebrow, just to let him know that he has seen him in this awkward position and that it just needs to register. That's all. And then I'll go and see if he needs a hand being pulled back up onto the platform.
Does Trezden?
He's already. I will take the assist.
Indeed. Yeah, you could grab him by the gauntlet and pull him back up.
I'll pull him up.
Certainly. Goroth, your enemies are unmoving. You can see movement ahead of you, and you can also you feel like there are other enemies about, but you're not really sure where they might be. You know that there is movement up ahead of you. What would you like to do from here?
Reach into my nearest enemy and pull out my spatha, for one.
The sword is drawn from the corpse.
Yeah. Look for the nearest enemy. Actually, I'm still in Fuhrer, so probably not in the best state of mind, huh?
Indeed.
I was thinking of grabbing one of the gauntlets, but I don't know if I'd have the presence of mind to do that.
Would make you act faster than that.
Yeah. So, more just pull out a spatha looking for enemies.
And
who's close by.
And you can see movement ahead. Clearly an enemy. What do you want to do?
Run towards it.
Now, Sloan, you have just pulled Trezden off of the edge, and excuse me, hiccup.
He's assisted me getting myself off the edge.
Quite,
but yes,
of course. You can see Lurz's wife is still at her post helping to direct and guide, but you can also hear heavy footsteps behind you, running fast.
If that's the case, then Sloan will turn, and as he's turning, he will drop to his knee and pull out his revolver.
And he can see Goroth charging with blood in his eyes.
Uh-oh. So there he's charging me
Yep.
and Trezden, I'm assuming.
Yep.
I will yell out, not knowing what stops him or what motivates this particular set of rage. I will yell out, Goroth, it's Sloan, and dive out of the way in case he's getting ready to brain me with an axe or run me through with his
Indeed.
spatha.
Trezden, any actions from you as Goroth is charging?
Oddly enough, it triggers a safety word from a previous session I've had with a lady,
Mhm.
and I yell, watermelon, watermelon, watermelon.
And to Goroth's ears, he just hears his enemies screaming in fear.
Oh, no, this is going to work out badly.
Indeed. Now,
It
I will
will
say,
indeed.
neither of them are currently raising arms. Because of this is not going to stop you from attacking them, but how do you want to attack them?
Yeah, since they aren't currently raising any weapons towards me, I'm probably just going to backhand whoever's nearest.
Yep, absolutely. This would be Trezden yelling watermelon, who is smashed upside the head and dazed again goes slumping down to the deck. After
Sorry,
that,
guys.
immediate follow-ups from Goroth to the one that has dived out of the way and is low to his right.
Yeah, just turn and look towards him.
Feral and vicious, he bears down on Sloan. What does Sloan want to do?
Where are there any of the opposing army nearby? Any these guys who jumped off of the snakes? Do I know where they are?
There are two that you are aware of. And are you doing, actually, that's a good question. Are you doing like a little once around sort of thing?
Yeah, I need to find out where they are and then hopefully lead him in their direction at least. That's my goal.
There's many dead, but there are two still alive. One of them is the one that Trezden blasted onto the lower deck. He is moving but clearly badly hurt. And the other is a guy that you haven't noticed before who is way to your left at like the tail end of this upper platform and clearly having just climbed up it. He is less armored than the others.
Oh boy. I've got to get Goroth away from Trezden. That's my biggest concern at the moment.
Indeed.
I'm going to take off at a sprint toward the guy who's trying to climb up onto the platform at the back, me getting out my pistol at the same time.
Ah, your prey flees from you.
Yeah,
Exactly.
squirrel!
No, Sloan, you immediately realize, oh, actually, important. What's your vigor?
My vigor? It's just 0.
Okay, Goroth is dramatically faster than you. He is terrifyingly fast. And you running sets him off, so he is at your heels immediately.
Okay. Is there it's time for something. Let me try to do something with some of the skill and reflex.
Mhm.
Are there any ropes or lashings that are hanging kind of swinging freely on the side of from one of the platforms up above, hanging down near in front of me, that I could run and grab onto, and then hopefully my momentum would take me either forward, or if I grabbed it and pushed off with my legs off of the beast, it would send me out away from the platform over space.
That's so cool. So there's not a platform above you, there's a canopy. That's like the top of this level. And so
I'm sorry, yeah.
No problem. I got what you're going for though. If you're running forwards, there would be loose rope, because actually when you landed on it, you would have loosened some of the lashings up there. So there definitely should be a lashing hanging free. And grabbing it, you probably would not have enough to just kind of like perfect pendulum swing up and out of his way. But you said kind of kicking off into the open air.
Right. So perpendicular, if I'm running this way,
yeah,
my hope is to push off to go this way, or at least more of an angle.
Yeah.
More of an angle. Just so it's not him braining me directly from behind it might throw him off a little bit. And if I can be out of his way for just a brief second, he might see the guy who's climbing up over the back of the platform.
Absolutely. And
I hope.
You know, I love the idea, and it makes enough sense that even without like a plus to luck, I think you have this one. I like this one.
Okay, cool.
And so kicking out into thin air, you swing out on this lashing. You're above the like not an open hole, but you're above the lower deck as you do so. And Goroth, you can see your prey swing out, but as you do, you feel a familiar, awful pain in your stomach, a flechette.
Oh, I don't like this guy. This will definitely immediately take his attention.
And I'm gonna say, unless you have a very strong opinion or otherwise, Goroth is booking it towards the flechette
Yes.
guy.
Oh, yes.
You're
He's
on
gonna die.
him like a flash. You cover an enormous stretch of ground at tremendous pace. The guy with the flechette weapon pumps more of them into you, but when you're on top of him, you catch one glimpse of the whites of his eyes before you're on him. How would you like to kill him? Take your pick.
So yeah, with both Spatha and spear in hand, he's gonna just get completely eviscerated, like
Yeah.
multiple and coating myself in blood in the process. How damaged am I, like wound wise?
It's hard for Goroth to immediately tell, but he was hurt even before he activated Furor, and he definitely has taken wounds.
Cool. Then yeah, I will follow this up with a blood-curdling scream as I use Bloodlust.
And Sloan, you are swinging back in from your kick out. You see your plans worked brilliantly, and Goroth is ripping apart this guy. But as you land and kind of get back on the platform, you see he steps back and unleashes a scream as loud and unearthly as the winged snakes, though very different.
So my this is, and I have to be honest with you on this. With my forward momentum grabbing onto that lashing, I wouldn't have gone out perpendicular from the creature. It would have been more of an angle, which would have probably carried me right back toward Goroth at the end of his run. My
Indeed.
Trajectory would have brought me back right behind
it
him.
would have been a figure eight.
Well, and there's nothing I could have done about it.
Precisely,
So I
yes.
probably would have landed right behind him. My hope is that I can just turn around and get away from this creature as fast as I can, because he's kind of scaring me at this point.
Quite.
And so I'm going to have to turn around and run the other direction. And then in the back of my mind, I've also got Trezden that I'm concerned about back at the other end of where all this started.
Goroth,
So I'm just going to have to run.
Bloodlust
So he's
is
landing.
activated.
Yeah. Okay.
And I should note, your senses are returning to you.
That's good.
Bloodlust.
Are there more enemies?
Now, looking about, you see your ally running away from you.
Okay. He's fine.
But looking about, you see no more enemies for the moment, but you're looking off the back of the war beast.
Well, the hunt must continue. Turn back to look for more enemies. Where are you going?
Now, Sloan, you have scampered almost to the, out of his sight as he says this. It would probably make you freeze in your tracks before you realize he just said something.
Yeah, if it sounds like he's more cognizant of his surroundings and he's out of his crazed demeanor, I'm gonna turn cautiously, but still moving away from him. I'm gonna turn cautiously to see how he manifests in front of me at this particular point in time.
He is standing proud and tall. The awful wounds across his body have almost all clotted beautifully and look like they are not bothering him at all.
I'm gonna have to give him a nod of respect there, but then I'm gonna, once I recognize, dang, this guy's a force to be reckoned with, I'm gonna have to turn, and I need to get to Trezden because I don't know his condition, and I want to make sure that he's not falling off the side of the beast. Or
Are there enemies that way? Chase after you.
I'll yell to Goroth. We need to protect the woman who's helping to guide this beast.
And there are enemies.
Uh, they're not enemies, but there may be enemies near her. So you might want to go. You might want to go and check it out.
And the two of you make your way back to the head of the upper deck. Now, Trezden, that hurt bad. That was the worst hit that you have taken. But as you are coming to, you realize another issue. Because coming to means that you're down on the ground. The bladed gauntlet guy got you before he was blasted off. You hadn't realized up till now because of adrenaline, but now you can see that you are bleeding profusely from the arm. Additionally, your jaw is dislocated, making you talk with a lisp.
This is not going well. So he's clearly not attacking me anymore.
He's nowhere in sight. It's just you and the woman steering the beast.
Nobody else around?
Not for the moment. You hear an awful blood-curdling roar from not too far away from you. Clearly, Goroth.
As long as it's not on me. I try to get myself together. I do have maybe use my skill to try to take some of my... Now I need to replace this cloak. But I'll take a piece of it and try to make a tourniquet around the wound.
Yeah. Would Trezden have any experience with tourniqueting or field medicine?
I have a feeling I've probably hurt people.
That's a fair point.
in my past, and I've had to... I've seen other people do it. I think maybe I don't actually have any first-hand skill in it, but I've seen it on many occasions, and I've watched. It's almost like watching a YouTube video. Like, I got this.
Watch
I know
a lot
this
of
works.
medical shows.
Yeah,
exactly.
How to tourniquet your own arm.
I've wounded people on accident with my wind powers and stuff like that. So I imagine other people had to fix them, and I have paid attention to that. I felt kind of bad.
Sure. Are you staying low, or like in a seated or kneeling position, or are you getting to your feet?
I'm trying to compose myself as best I can. I think I'm gonna bind it down low. I'm afraid the monster that just like me is gonna come back at me, and I don't want to look too lively.
Indeed.
But I'm trying to clean it up. I'm not gonna stand up till I feel like I can be myself again. You know what I mean?
Of course. Sloan comes around the corner at this point. You can see Trezden trying kind of clumsily to one-handedly bandage his own arm.
Yeah, I'll step over to here. Let me give you a hand with that. And
Thanks.
I'll step
Thanks.
in. And I'll look at his dislocated jaw slightly off, and I'll say, "That looks like it hurts." And then I'll go back to binding up his wounds.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good. It's not good. No.
This would be the point that Goroth comes around the corner as well. Sloan would.
I heard there were enemies this way.
Sloan would see the change in Trezden's expression.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to look at Goroth with a little bit of trepidation as well, just before I know he's absolutely not still in insane mode.
Mm-hmm.
Where are they?
He says to you grittily, as sane as he ever is.
So, well, I mean, are there any other enemies that we can see around the woman, or is there anything that is up close to the guy who's driving Lears?
Now, as you've taken the opportunity to be tourniqueting Trezden, but as you are looking about, you take good stock of your surroundings for the first time in a little while. The whole group of you do. You can see that Lears' wife, who's right next to you guys, completely clear. You guys have cleared out the upper deck. On the lower deck below, Lears is still standing tall. The paratrooper that had been knocked down below is on his feet and is trying to approach Lears, but is clearly hurt. So he's having trouble doing so. He is the only hostile on the deck of the beast, but much more notably, that palisade I was telling you guys about is very close, like less than 10 seconds till impact.
I'm gonna, as long as we can all see this thing coming closer and closer.
Yeah, the palisade is close enough. You can't miss it. You can see the soldiers on it. Many of them are clearing out of the way of the section that's about to get bashed through. You can see also that even though it's about 10 seconds away, that's still a pretty far frickin' distance because this creature is so fast.
Sure.
And Sloan, though not the other two, can see that projectiles are being readied at the palisade, ready to unleash a huge salvo at the beast when it gets close.
Oh man. By projectiles, do you mean like ballista, or are we talking arrows or crossbows, or what do we got going there?
You cannot see any large-scale siege weaponry. It seems to be handheld projectile devices. You don't see bows, but by the way people are holding things, clearly something of that nature.
Okay. Oh.
Let's see here.
Is there anything that I could interject between something that I could grab quickly, a piece of detritus from these smashed platforms? Is there anything that I could interject between the woman who is helping her husband guide things and any incoming projectiles?
Unfortunately, any piece of the platform that would have been big enough to do so has been thrown free of the beast from all of its bouncing and bumping. Any other questions or actions from the group while you are thinking about that? Yeah, Jay.
Do they seem like they're targeting Lears more
Now,
than her?
It's very hard for you to tell because of the darkness and the distance, but there are you can see hundreds of soldiers along the palisades. And you know that these guys have ranged weapons due to the flechettes that you've seen embedded into Goroth. And so if even a tenth of those guys have ranged weapons, that's going to be hundreds of projectiles kind of flying indiscriminately in your direction.
And we have about 10 seconds.
If that. The projectiles are probably going to start flying faster.
If you guys are, I've got something I can ask if I can try.
Sure. Detour, do you have any actions before that?
I think Goroth is mostly looking at this incoming line of flechette throwers, thinking, how am I going to get over there to kill as many of them as possible?
Yeah, Goroth is the one person who is feeling great at the moment. Like, his stamina is fine. His wounds have been healed. He's doing great.
All right, so my one ability I haven't used yet is Out of the Blue.
Mm-hmm.
If I dropped from the height of the top of this monster to the ground, it increases its power by how far I fall.
Yeah.
I feel like I could knock these structures over.
So if you were dropping from like the sky, maybe, but the height of the beast is probably not enough to get your Out of the Blue more power than to like really, really badly hurt a small group of people. Like to get to the point of hitting structures, you got to get way the high up.
Okay. I was just trying to think of if I could possibly
while
topple
you
some of
have
this.
used your two abilities, it's been long enough since you used them that both are off cooldown.
I could think of a way to get you pretty high up in the air.
So there's one on each side, right? We're approaching one on each side, right?
So you're approaching a palisade. Soldiers are clearing off the section that you're going for, but there are more on either side of where you're heading.
So I could use Thunderclap to take out one side. It would at least keep them from firing accurately.
Well, since you're mentioning that, Jim, what would Sloan like to do, or what's your question about? Because I think Jay, you're in the right direction. Thunderclap is great for disrupting projectiles.
Okay. How far is it for me to get in front of Lears? Can I make it there really quickly? Put it that way.
If you vault off of the platform, it's a decent, like a story and a half drop down below, but that's not impossible for you to land. Vaulting over the platform and then sprinting, yes, you could get to Lears.
Because
I go with them and speed them up.
How do you want to speed them up?
I have a vigor plus one plus my feathered cloak, my Hilaria.
Those are all selfish. Those only help you.
Right,
so
right.
It's a matter of how you.
I'm thinking I'm just grabbing hold of, like, he's running as fast as he can. I feel like, running is kind of my specialty.
Oh, well, if you see him going to vault over the edge, you could run and catch him under the arms to, like, glide him down. Like your
So
feathered
we
cloak
head
is-
out. He doesn't have to land first and travel. He can travel while we go.
Your feathered cloak would
And
not
I
like
just want
holding
to know
that
if I
amount
can
of weight.
assist them.
Oh, pardon?
I can assist them. We
Exactly.
can both get up there, up towards the front.
The gliding idea is good. Your feathered cloak will not like holding that much weight, and it will be a very sharp glide angle, but better.
But
than
it'd be
just
better than just dropping.
Precisely, yeah. So, pardon,
Okay.
Jim, what were you saying?
Well, my question is, and this is where I'm picturing in my head, but Sloan would know. I'm assuming Sloan would know whether or not this would be effective. If I can get in front of the guy who's driving, Lears, I figure he's the one that is most important right now.
Yeah.
If I got in front of him, could I do standoff, try and pull standoff, and protect him from any projectiles for just a few seconds
Yes.
until we got through the palisade?
Unquestionably, yes.
That's what I'd like to try and do.
And in that case, as you run to the edge and go to vault over, you feel your arms like some caught underneath your arms as you start to glide down towards the deck.
And I'll tell Trezden, land me right in front of him,
Do my best.
just so he knows my action.
Trezden can't quite get you that far, but he gets you a good ways across the deck, and in fact lands you not too far away from the wounded paratrooper trying to get over towards Lears, whose head snaps to you guys as the two of you land like 10 feet away from him.
Right before I jump, though, I yell to Goroth, "Protect the woman."
Mm-hmm. And as Trezden and Sloan land, immediate actions from Sloan, I'm assuming, is just to bolt in front of Lears. Trezden, what would you like to do?
So he's gonna try to stop all the projectiles.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna prepare. I'm gonna get close. I'm gonna get close to Lears,
Mhm.
and if something fails, I'm ready. I'm readying my thunderclap.
Yep. And
Just to dislodge any projectiles that would be coming towards him.
absolutely. And Goroth, what would you like to do?
So, given an instruction, probably not my favorite choice, or Goroth anyway, of like
Protect.
not jump into
Should've
the
worded
fight
it,
and
kill
protect
anyone
someone.
that tries to hit the girl.
Yeah.
That would have been better.
Ugh. Stealing all the glory. But still takes the job seriously, so he's gonna hunch over her, and knowing that there, like, does he know that there are projectiles incoming? Can he like intuit that?
He sees the number of soldiers and he knows they have used projectiles before.
Okay,
Like, I'm
then
guessing Goroth would have, I don't know if he would have fought in huge battles, but he probably would be familiar with the idea of, like, if you're defending something, then probably a sword isn't the best idea.
right. Okay, then yeah, he's gonna hunch over her, and anticipating the incoming projectiles, he's going to start to prepare another warp spasm.
Yep.
So this time with his hands, and like, so the prep for it is just like flexing like this.
And as you are doing so, Sloan, as you step in front of Lears, he grits to you through his like damaged jaw. I see that you still draw breath from the north.
I'm just not even paying attention to him. My focus is on doing standoff.
Yep.
I throw back the duster, get my hands loosened up, and then just get my intimidating stare and start to stare down the people who are going to be shooting the projectiles at me. I'm trying to just say as calm as I possibly can and get standoff to deflect whatever it can deflect.
You see glints of metal start to arc through the air, and a tinny whistle, very thin, starts to stack on your eardrums through the windy night battlefield sky. It's as though an incredibly, when someone makes a whistle with a piece of grass? Imagine like a very thin, light version of that stacked on top of itself hundreds of times. A cacophony of thin whistles. And you can see the glinting flecks of metal whipping through the air in organized waves, coming at the beast and Lears and his wife and you three from predominantly two different wings, left and right. So nothing down the barrel, coming in this way and this way. As the projectiles are starting to whip through the air, they are not fast projectiles, so you have at least a couple seconds of them being airbound.
I'm going to get as close to Lear's as I possibly can. I mean, like standing right in front of him.
Yeah.
Is there more? Is there a larger group of them coming from one spot
No.
to the other? Then I'm going to turn to the left and I'm going to yell to Trezden, is there anything you can do on the right side?
I turn to the right and thunderclap. I've been prepping it. Let's do it.
Sloan hears a wild blast of noise emit from Trezden's hands. A pulse goes through the air, and he can see the metal flecks coming in from that side already starting to be knocked asunder, distorted, and flying out of the air, heavily, heavily disrupted on that wing.
Then I've got standoff turned to the left to hopefully stop the projectiles that are hitting from that side.
They start to land. The hissing, sizzling noise of them, the whistles start landing about you. You hear the like of them striking into the tops of the deck. You hear them cutting into the fabric, and you can see them flicking past your face as standoff deflects them from you. Trezden, you were standing on the right side. You are catching part of this shield, but you feel a few slashes across your cheeks and across your like shoulder areas, as even though Sloan's shield is protecting you slightly, you're standing enough away from him that you're eating a couple of flechettes. Do you have any immediate reactions?
I mean, I can't do another thunderclap, but I can possibly turn the wind up, make them start changing direction.
How do you want
push
to
them
do the
away
pivot
from the
action on
beast?
this storm brewing? Assuming you're going for a storm brewing.
Yeah, I'm going for a storm brewing. I start singing that same tune I was just singing to the guy before I sent him over the railing.
Yeah.
Very dashingly. I begin to sing that to myself. It has little whistle parts in it, and every time the whistle part comes, I'm mimicking the whistle sound of the projectiles coming at us.
Yep.
And I start turning my head to like turn the sound, and it kind of I'm picture it kind of pushes the whistles, pushing them.
God damn it, Jay! You are so lucky, both out of game and in game. In turning your head, you realize that the wounded paratrooper is practically on top of you guys, having been sneaking up from behind you. You are still working on your storm brewing. What do you want to do?
Can I flick that last lightning bolt I held onto in my pocket, Adam?
I guess he's worth it after all.
Yep. I work it into the song.
Yep. Yeah.
Nice.
And he goes down, convulsing with electricity. Now, Sloan, were you not in standoff and desperately like holding your focus on keeping steady, that sudden zap of lightning would definitely have made you jump out of your skin.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Yeah.
But in this case, you can hold it together. As the wind is rising around you. Now, up above, Goroth, tell me about your warp spasm.
Yep. So the idea here is waiting for the last possible second of the incoming projectiles. And then what I want to do is kind of make something like this with his hands, but warp spasmed as like a shield over her, basically. Like,
yeah, bloody knuckles.
Lord. And your hands distort wildly. They feel awful, but within the pain of your warp spasm, the pain of the flechettes that start to embed themselves in your hands is slightly less noticeable as it was before. And you can feel there are so many flechettes sticking into your hands, they are starting to get heavier, like noticeably. And then after about 10 seconds, you feel the flechette rain let up. Your warp spasm drops, and flechettes start to drop out of your now much smaller hands. You can not move your fingers. You took so much heat from that. But You still have hands, and that is something at least. So you imagine severe arthritis all
Yeah.
through your hands. However, she only took hits to her legs, and even then they were mostly on her lower legs and not very deep wounds in any case. It doesn't stop her from her job either. She continues to direct and move, grunting and groaning under the strain of guiding the beast as she does. And it's at this point that you hit the palisade. Now, Goroth, you're going to have the easiest time not getting thrown forward from this. You have the in this case, in this particular section, still intact railing section of the upper platform that you can lean against. But as the palisade is smashed into, you see that the war beast, it does slow down for a moment as it has to like thrash its way through some lingering pieces of debris before it starts to get a move on again. But in so doing, Goroth would see that soldiers from the palisades, waiting for it to make impact, had started to climb up it once it took the moment of slowness to push its way through. So once again, you are being boarded. This time from the ground rather than the sky.
The hunt continues!
Now your first question is left or right?
Yeah. Where are there more enemies?
Can't tell. Seems equivalent.
Left.
And as you turn to your left, this do you want to? Are you going to try to get down to the lower platform, or do you want to stay up on the higher platform for now?
How functional are my hands again?
Severe arthritis.
Enough to grip my weapons, hopefully.
It would take you a moment of concentration to like get them into a proper grip, but once they're holding, you can maintain a death grip.
The hunt shall have us this day. And charge forward.
Now, are you going to get down onto the lower level? If so, since you have your hands occupied with weapons, it would probably have to be a jump.
Yep. Jump down to the lower level.
And that's totally fine. Between resilience and reflex and vigor, you can absolutely make a story and a half jump without terribly much trouble. It's a heavy landing, right?
Yeah.
But it's not that bad.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of superhero landings, so probably go for that.
I taught you well.
Yes, indeed. And as you land down, the war beast starts to move again. Now, back up to the head of the group. Now, I should note, Trezden is still working on the storm brewing, but he has dispatched that last paratrooper. And this is the point at which the beast impacts. The flechettes have let up. Sloan can finally feel that his standoff is no longer being tested by the incoming storm. But the beast hits the palisade at this moment. What do you guys want to do? You have no railing in front of you to be able to deal with. How do you want to make sure you don't get flung forward off of the creature? And if you don't have a way to, what do you want to do as you're being flung?
I'm going to have to say that there's really not much I could do because I would have been concentrating on standoff.
Yeah.
I was not holding on to anything because I had to maintain my menacing pose to make the standoff work.
Yep.
When he hit that palisade, I would have gone.
Yep,
there's not much I could have done about it.
Can I possibly grab him since I was so close to him?
You were very close to him, but you were facing away to deal with the paratrooper.
Okay.
And similarly, Trezden, how would you like to deal with getting flung? In your case, since you're facing away, you'd be flung kind of backwards-ish.
So first thing I'm thinking is, can my now tattered cloak, can I possibly hook it onto the horn as I go flying by?
You do have the 1+ luck, and the cloak could let you redirect yourself in midair, so I will say, yes, your noble cloak serves one last purpose of hooking you onto the horn.
I'm hoping that suit I saw the guy wearing. Yeah, I'm gonna get a suit in red, just like that one I saw before we left.
Now, after getting hooked and kind of coming down the horn and landing on the muzzle, though the cloak rips as you're getting to the bottom, which means you're not stuck to the horn, but also that the cloak is truly dead for the remainder of the mission. What do you want him to do immediately thereafter? Looking back over towards Lears, you can see that he is still holding strong. The creature is like swinging its head, meaning that you have to hold on to the horn to stop from getting thrown off as it wades through the palisades, and Sloan is nowhere in sight. What do you want to do?
I am going to look around for a moment, see if I can see Sloan. Can I see where Sloan has gone, or...
Let's check in with him. Sloan, you are flung sideways as you were kind of facing off to the side, sideways and forwards, and you feel yourself twisting through dark air. You,
right.
As though blooming out of nothingness, you can see a piece of palisade kind of like awkwardly angled towards you with a couple of nasty stakes kind of pointing in your direction come rushing towards you.
How far off the ground am I?
Honestly, at this point, it's hard to tell. You're so disoriented, you're not really sure where you are in space.
But based on where the platforms originally were, does Sloan think that he might have the ability to survive the fall if he tucks into a ball and rolls when he hits where he thinks the ground is? Or is that just out of the question? It was way too high to start with.
It is high, but since you are going towards a piece of palisade, it probably means you're not all the way to ground level.
So the ground level is not too far away at this stage. Is that right, or am I wrong on that?
Inference.
Then I am going to try and actually go to all the way to ground. That I don't want to try to grab onto the palisade. I want to actually go all the way and hopefully not completely break my neck by impacting on the ground. Wow. Which is going to be tough because it's dark and I don't know exactly where the ground is.
Yes, there are many, many problems. Not the least of which being that you land amongst some of the ruins of the palisade.
Right.
And so rather than soft earth, you're landing on partially strewn wood.
Chunks of wood and yeah.
You feel one leg go out from under you. You feel the pop as it snaps. Your left leg totally out. But even though you hit the ground very hard, breath knocked out of your lungs, you feel a horrible bruise in your collarbone from where you slam into a piece of palisade. You feel another nasty gouging sensation in the broken left leg where a stake pierces it. You are alive, though very disoriented.
Okay.
What do you want to do?
I'm going to have to get my wits about me before I can do an action. In the back of my mind, the thing that I was going to want to do was, as the beast went by, grab onto the trailing, the rope ladder, the wide rope ladder that's at the back. Whatever, you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
That was my goal, was to grab that. In this current state, I don't think that's going to be something I can do, but that's still my hope if
Absolutely.
There's a possibility for that. So I have to, but I've got to get oriented first. I have to clear my head before I can do that.
And going back to Trezden, you can see no Sloan in sight. Even after looking around, no sign of him. There's so much going on the ground between broken pieces of palisade and the beast stomping and soldiers milling around that even if he was down there, it would be very hard for you to pick him out.
Can I see the gate?
Yes, you can. From your position on the horn, the gate is tantalizingly close. Probably less than a minute till impact.
That's our goal. We got to get him in the gate.
And here on the horn, what do you want to do? Are you going to remain at the horn for the moment?
I think I'm gonna do what I can to help get through that gate, because that is our objective. We need to get him through the gate.
Absolutely.
So I don't know where Sloan has gone. I hope he's all right.
Yeah.
I know that our slaughterer back there, I don't want to get between him and his fight because it hurts. So my best spot is spearheading us through this freaking gate. So I am I think at this point I'm trying to muster. I know I was storm brewing. I don't know if I've completely dropped it or what.
The storm brewing would have been very heavily disrupted, but since it's a very continuous ability, you can pick it back up.
I start singing some song. mother used to sing to me back in the day.
Sure.
While I put my back up against the horn facing the gate. I'm just trying to. I feel like I've lost my groove,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to regain it here. And even though I'm singing with a little bit of a slack jaw thing going on, got a little southern twang to it that I'm not used to, but I am trying my best to psych myself up, to feel the energy again, to get control of this wind, this weather, and I'm trying to evaluate how best to approach this gate.
When you first did storm brewing, you were like the very first time on the mission, you made this like very concentrated, like bursting column of forward wind. Are you doing something similar here, or is this a different type of wind? How do you want to make the wind move? Your current song makes it feel a little more like.
So I'm not. Yeah, I don't think I'm getting as aggressive. I'm not looking for like to carve a hole in the earth like I was trying to before. I think it's more of a clarity is what I'm looking for. Like the world is swirling around us. We're getting the snot beat out of us, and it's more of like a self-serving clarity. I want to think clearly. I want to be as aware as I possibly can at this gate and looking for any hints I can pick up on how to get it open. I have the best vantage point. I'm on the freaking nose of the beast.
Yep.
So it's the song is more for me, but the wind is also for me.
Absolutely.
It's about focus. I've been punched. I'm bleeding. My favorite robe has been torn apart. I am not where I want to be right now. So I'm trying to focus is what it's all about for me right now. I'm trying to focus on this gate. We have to get through this gate. I am looking at every detail I could possibly can about this gate. I'm looking around it, and I'm using the air to clear my thoughts, to clear the area. Anything that might be obstructing my view, I'm trying to move it out of the way.
Aha. Brilliant. The clouds are parting, revealing a full moon. And as your wind clears the clouds, you can see the city's defenses quite brilliantly. First of all, the gate. It is not wooden. It is made from what you can see of pure metal.
Oh,
A very substantial thing. It stands almost 5 stories tall and looks wide enough for 20 men to stand across minimum. Moreover, the city's walls are high and powerful and thronging with men, and there are ballistas on them. At least half a dozen, all trained on the war beast.
Okay.
All right.
Now, as the clearing of the clouds illuminates the defenses, what are you going to do? What are you thinking?
I need to distract them all. We can't take down all these ballistas. We can't take down all these attacks. We just took down the barrage the last round. I'm gonna need to launch myself into some sort of out of the blue something to distract, something else to target so this beast can get through.
Very tall order considering how prominent.
I know. So I have a wind going. Can I take this wind to carry myself up?
Now, if you had your cloak, that would be much easier. But without
It would
the
be.
cloak,
I still have my shoes. I still got my shoes.
So with a running start, the wind can carry you far. Especially if you can pull off an arcane manifestation, kind of like with your floating wind pocket that you were using earlier. A manifestation from your arcane stat is a novel magical power. And it can be partially redundant with some of the other stuff your class can do. You just have to justify it from your character's theming and backstory and paired actions.
So I am running up.
Yeah.
I'm running off the nose of the beast. The wind I've stirred up while I'm singing the song is going to carry me. It's going to push me. I am going to head up as fast as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Getting ready to out of the blue myself down upon the siege on the wall.
Okay. That's actually very interesting. We'll get to why in a moment. But let's jump back over to Goroth. Jumping down. You can hear them climbing up the outside of the beast, using the rigging that was intended for its allies to scale it quickly and efficiently. Where do you want to position yourself before they come over the edge?
Okay, so they're coming up.
Yep.
And I'm running towards where they're
side.
coming up.
Yep. So they're climbing up, effectively rigging that drapes off every side and back of the beast.
I'm just gonna run along the railing, chopping rigging.
Yep. You soon come to the gap that was made when the snake smashed through this side of the platform. How do you want to get across to more rigging beyond?
Ooh. What are my options here? What have I got to work with?
Well, you did climb up the beast side of this operation earlier, but that would be slow enough that enemies would definitely be over the top by the time you got there. Warp Spasm has a low cooldown, and so that technically would be available, though you might need to do some energy work to make sure you have it exactly where you want it. And Furor is also up.
Ooh, fun.
Oh,
all
you
right.
you also have a spear. You have a Gaisum.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking of, using something like that to like jump off and like plunge it into not the beast, hopefully, but more like a piece of wood or something.
It would probably have to be the beast.
Yeah, it's pretty thick-skinned, right? Yeah, it'll be fine.
Very thick skin. It is peppered with flechettes at the moment.
Yeah, it'll live. Yeah, probably use both
one hit point
Spatha.
left.
Yeah, that's the one hit point.
Yeah, Spatha and spear to like catch myself as I jump off and try to get toward them.
Yep. So and since the Geisa facilitate agile maneuvers, this kind of like stabbing swing is exactly what they're made for. And so after like a jump, a stab, a swing, a jump, another stab, and then a smaller swing, you land on the far side of the platform. Are you going to go about dispatching more rigging?
If that seems effective, yeah.
This will allow you to clear all of the rigging off of the left side of the beast, but by the time you're reaching the back, the first enemies are coming over the top. And you can see them, the rank and file, armed with maces and knives and tridents.
Well, seems like a good time as any. I will go back into Furor. I think my frenzied anger will be once again leaning on my hunt background, probably going something to the effect of, let me think for a second. Yep. This hunt never ends. It's glorious.
And as
just
your vision
them.
hazes again and you leap in towards them, it's almost as though they become what would be an animal you would have hunted? Like, give me an example.
Ooh, mostly big things. I'm imagining almost dinosaur-like beasts is what he was going after, but there might have been smaller, like pack-type animals he would have gone after.
If we're talking dinosaurs, you know what a Struthiomimus is?
No.
Okay, it's an ostrich mimic dinosaur.
Okay, yeah.
Ostrich size. And so if you would have hunted those before, they become like a pack of Struthiomimes, which as you fall in and begin to lay about, you see their long necks hacked asunder, their long legs carved out from under them, their long jowls flashing and trying to strike at you to keep you at bay. You are pretty much stuck into a mob and are flailing about, just cutting at everything in arm's reach. You do have the ability to do a more refined strategy, of course, but this is what the initial plunge is looking like.
This sounds effective enough.
Now, Sloan, you have collected yourself enough to be able to get bearing of your surroundings. You can feel the ground below you shudder so much you almost bounce on it like you're on a trampoline as the war beast's huge feet stomp very close past you, within 6 feet. As it does so, it kicks up detritus and pieces of palisade all around you too.
Okay, my goal here is if I can see through, if I can get through this pain, which I know I'm going to be in, I want to try and, once the legs have gone past, I want to roll to the side.
Yep.
Hopefully far enough over to where that trailing rope ladder that is trailing after the beast.
Yep.
I want to roll out of the way of it and then roll back as it goes by. And if there's enough of a tail on it, I want to try and grab onto the bottom end of that rope ladder as it goes by, or that netting as it goes by. That's my goal, so that I can stay with it and then head back up.
Absolutely. You grab successfully and you start to be dragged along. Now, as you are being dragged, there are pieces of palisade that are in your line of drag. How are you going to get around these things?
What's going to have to happen is, as they're heading toward me, I'm going to have to keep my eyes that way as well as up and roll my body to the side so that I don't get beamed by these things as they're coming at me. Yeah.
Quick time action.
Time, yeah, exactly. But hopefully at the same time, pulling myself up out of harm's way as best I can.
Yep. And with your arms screaming under the amount of strain they've been put under today, you are hauling yourself up the ladder, twisting sideways to get through palisades. You can feel sections of the rigging being ripped asunder as they catch on pieces of palisade that you pass by. But also overhead, you can see dozens of figures. Other soldiers had the same idea as you and are climbing up ahead of you.
Okay.
However, as you are climbing up, the creature comes free of the palisades. Now you are hanging free with the remainder of its rigging trailing behind you and underneath you, but so too, you feel bodies start to tumble down the rigging past you, sometimes missing limbs or heads.
I wonder what's happening up there.
Indeed.
Then if my focus no longer has to be with the detritus that's coming from underneath the beast toward me this way, I'm going to have to look up and do the exact same thing and try and roll back and forth out of the way to avoid falling body parts.
And it's at this point that your arms start to give out. You can barely take another pull. You are in the red on stamina, and your arms in particular are so tired and sore that it is hard even to hold in place.
Okay, then what I'm going to have to do is thread my arms through the netting.
Yep.
So that I don't have to hold on with a grip. I've actually got the ropes wrapped around my arms, and then I'm going to use my body to generate enough torsion so that I can roll back and forth if I need to keep from being knocked off. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'll do the same thing with my leg, my good leg.
Yep.
I'll try and wrap that into the rope ladder as well, or the netting as well.
Beautifully done. And in so doing, this is the same time that the sky clears enough for the moon to illuminate the city beyond. You can see it through the creature's legs.
Okay.
You see the massive bronze gate looming up ahead, and you can see the walls lined with soldiers.
And then do I get hit with a real strong sense of the hopelessness of our situation?
It is utterly, it feels so futile. A mouse going up against a frickin' tank.
Do I still have my rifle?
You do.
Somehow. Wow. Okay.
You do not have your revolver, but you do have your rifle.
In my current state, looking through toward the gate, through the legs of this creature that is barreling along, and with the moon now shining brilliantly on the gate, do I notice any one particular person who stands out because of their armor, or are we too far away for that kind of thing? Or can I see one person who just really overpowers the others in terms of their visual presence?
You would see a person being carried on a litter over the gate.
Okay. Is there any way, and I'm going to say that there probably is not, but is there any way that I could unsling the rifle with my arms still wrapped through the ropes? Is there a way that I have enough free arm space to get my rifle out to take a shot at that person on the litter?
With triple skill, we can talk about it. Describe to me the scene. How would you unthread this thing? And assuming, again, your triple skill means that your manual dexterity, your deftness, is borderline supernatural by real world standards.
All right, I'm really gonna go outside the box here because I don't know if this is something that you'll let me get away with, but I'm gonna give it a go.
Yep.
I have one good leg that is wrapped into this
Yep.
netting. Do I have, with my triple plus on skill, do I have the ability to let go with my arms while getting out my rifle, falling down so that the crux of my knee is still what's holding on to the netting, and shoot upside down, hanging, since I'm the only thing that's holding me into the netting is my leg. Can I shoot upside down and try and hit the person in the litter?
I thought you were going to say something unreasonable. Let's start with the beginning of that. The swing down. Absolutely, you have the wherewithal to hook on, because you also have a reflex plus, I believe. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crucial here. Hooking in, swinging down, looking down and through below, aiming upside down with your gun. This is a very far shot on a very swingy platform, but the target is unmoving. I'm going to jump over to Trezden for a moment. I want you to think about how you're going to construct this shot for me.
Okay? No, that's good.
Trezden, you are up in the air.
Yes. I'm going as high as possible. I would say humanly possible, but I want to go higher than that. So
beyond that, yes. So we were talking about perhaps you start with your Talaria after a running start. How do you want to get more height between manifestation and other stuff? Have you thought of anything?
So my storm brewing, I am using it as an updraft.
Yep.
To elevate myself.
That's absolutely great.
Because I sing
cloak, it would get you a lot
higher register.
Yeah.
My voice gets very high pitched as I the higher I go, the higher the song goes.
Absolutely. And so in this case, it's climbed you about to the level of the beast's topmost platform, though again you're a little ways out in front of it.
Am I above the wall?
You are not above the wall. The beast is shorter than the wall, and you are not quite at the beast's high. You're about the beast's highest point, but you are just above the level of where the gate caps out.
Is there a gap between the top of the gate and the wall?
There is. So it's gate, stone archway, ramparts of the wall. And so if we're talking about like that stone section of the masonry, then there is a gap there, but it's not a gap that you could go through.
Okay. Do the walls look like they're made of stone or metal?
The walls are stone. The door is bronze.
Well, I'm going to do something reckless. I am going to drop as much as I possibly can out of the blue and aim for the metal door with as much voltage as I possibly can.
You hit the gate. And you feel yourself arcing through it. Obviously, this happens in a split second. But while you're going through it, it feels awesome. It's like a water slide. Like zooming around in this metal prism. And then you appear at the bottom. On the inside of the city. As you appear, you are greeted by you're in there's a big empty gap between the gate and the nearest people, but you see that there are columns upon columns of soldiers standing formal at the ready, headed by their captains with trumpeters nearby, and then someone notices that you are on the inside.
Oops.
Lever. Is there a lever?
Not at this level.
I see something right next to the gate.
You see doors leading into the gatehouse.
I don't think there'll be a lot of people in that direction. I'm heading into one of the gatehouses. Yep, I'm just like, yeah, exactly. I don't look like the ones they're fighting.
Exactly.
They don't know who I am. I'm just a guy. Just a guy, guys. I'm just going.
Pay no attention.
And as you go running inside, you hear a cry being put up from some of the soldier auxiliaries. Someone's broken in! And you hear alarm trumpets being raised as you push your way into the gatehouse, which is unlocked from this side. They didn't expect anyone to get in from this side.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping nobody's guarding this, I hope.
There's a number of very confused porters inside who you blow past as I presume you're trying to go up. Is that where you're trying to go?
I point back at the door and said, they just came through the gate, guys. They're out there. They need help.
The porters scream and drop their stuff and just bolt in every direction.
I'm grabbing some of their whatever gear. Like if I'm half-ass putting a helmet on my head so it looks like one of them.
Yeah.
Whatever, as I'm just going. And I'm like, emergency at the gate, guys! Emergency at the gate! And I start running up the steps.
And you hear panic as the word starts to spread. And as you start to run up inside of the gatehouse, run, jumping back over to Goroth. You are immersed in your enemies. And as you do so...
You need a snorkel at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. New common item. And as you feel them thronging around you, you feel at once that being in among them, they are starting to move with slightly more coordination. You feel instead of them just kind of milling about you aimlessly, some are finding more purchase on the platform, able to get up off of the rigging. And you can see that even though in your mind they appear as prey animals, their spears are starting to appear more prominently in your hazy vision as well.
I think I'm going to focus on like deflecting spears and taking them and throwing them off the sides.
Yeah.
As much as possible, getting them to hit other ones that are coming up.
Absolutely. Now, Sloan, it's a good thing you're hanging upside down, because otherwise this would be going straight into your head.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
However,
Right now,
Sorry.
upside
ricocheting
down,
off my butt.
yeah, they're going right up your ass. But in your current position, the way that you're hanging means that the rigging kind of bends backwards, so people tumble over you instead of crashing into you. Now,
Right.
Bouncing back up to Goroth, however, in your current grab and fling maneuver, there are three things you know. You feel weapons are starting to get stuck into you and are sticking out of you at a few angles, but the pain is deepening the rage and intensifying the power that you get from it. And so at this point, you can also feel some of them are closing to close quarters, and their claws are getting stuck into you, or knives.
Ooh. So you said there were tridents before.
Yeah.
If I'm coherent enough to like grasp one, I'd like to take one out and start using it to like get range from the beast.
So are you going to try to back away from the beasts a little bit?
Yeah, like
Now,
using this.
Furor compels you attack. And so how are you going to make sure you can have the frame of mind to retreat while Furor is pulling you forwards?
Yeah, so definitely still like, attacking as I'm retreating. So like I'm getting a defensive position, but still poking forward as anything that comes near.
Absolutely. Furor does not like defensive. So how are you going to kind of speak to your Furor psyche to make it do what you want?
So I'm seeing it as not so much defensive as just holding my ground.
Yep.
It's like, this is my spot, and you will not enter it.
Absolutely. And with this trident in hand, do you want to grab another?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have totally enough strength to dual hand tridents with zero problem. Exactly. And as you are your back is currently to the beast's hump, right, where this platform hits its body, right? And with it at your back, they have a lot, and like two ranged weapons in your hands, they have a lot more trouble getting on top of you. You have no idea where your Gisem is, but your Spatha is easily recoverable at the very least. This also means that they can't get past you and climb up to get to Lyr's wife. Because
I'm doing my job. All right.
Precisely.
By accident, but there you go.
Sloan,
Take it no matter what.
talk me through your shot.
Well, unknown to most people outside of the coastal communities where our circus used to travel, one of the acts that I used to do in the circus was I would hang off the side of a galloping horse with my leg wrapped around the saddle, and I would shoot targets upside down. So this is not new to me. This is something that I have practiced in the past. So when I fell back down, I would have had to twist my leg to a point, which again is second nature to me. I would have had to twist my leg so that I was facing the right direction. So I can't just fall back with my knee hooked through. I would have had to twist my body so that it was facing in the direction that I wanted to shoot.
Precisely.
But I would have had my foot, my leg, my knee hooked onto the rigging, and then I would have just had to twist my leg around it and then catch a higher tine in the rigging with my foot in order to project myself around so I'm aiming the right direction.
Yeah.
And then as the net is swinging back and forth, which I'm sure it is with each step of the creature,
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to, this is no different from the shot that I would have had to take hanging off the side of a horse upside down. So this is second nature to me as far as I'm concerned.
Now,
Oh, dang it.
a much further shot, though.
Oh yes, this is testing my skill set to the utmost. I fully acknowledge that, and with my arms being exceptionally tired, it's going to be very difficult for me to hang on target. I will try to thread the rifle through the netting so that it's balanced at least on that, so I don't have to use my physical strength to hold it in, hold it on target. And then it's going to use just the rope as a pivot so that I can maneuver the rifle into the correct positioning in order to make the shot at that distance. That's about all I can do in terms of trying to take this shot at this guy on this litter.
What is Sloan thinking of? What's in his head? What is he remembering? If you need a moment to think about it, then that's fine.
No, I think that I'm good. Sloan he's always tested himself. When he was a young person, he was an orphan. He and his brother were orphans. They were taken into the circus by an exceptionally mean person who constantly belittled and bullied both Sloan and his brother. There's more to the backstory than that, but I won't get into it at this point. Sloan's goal, even though it was not his goal in life at that time, was to prove to this bullying adult male in his life that he had the ability to accomplish great things. He was trying to prove to this person, you can talk to me however you want, but I can overcome this because I have these high skills as a marksman. I'm going back to that. Sloan has spent his entire life trying to show others that he has exceptional skills as a marksman, but at the same time, he's been trying to prove it to himself because of this childhood trauma that he once had. And this is probably the ultimate expression of him trying to overcome the obstacle of proving that he is an expert marksman. In fact, probably the best marksman that there is.
We'll see what happens in a moment.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
I am
You are sprinting.
alerting everyone to the danger outside.
As you sprint up the gatehouse. I should note, at this point, Trezden, despite his plus to vigor, he is getting tired. Like, seriously.
Oh,
tired.
I am beyond exhausted. I probably have a pounding headache. I can barely see straight. But I look like a soldier that's hungover, trying to put on my armor and warning everyone else that we have an emergency outside as I continue to search up the gatehouse for a way to open the gate.
You've reached the top of the gatehouse turret. You can see that there are doors left and right that lead out onto the ramparts. You, off the top of your head, since you went, when you went into the gatehouse turret on your right, that means you'd have to go out, since you got turned around inside of this, on this right to go back out onto the top of the gate.
Oh, I do the L,
Yeah,
like the quiz left right thing for a minute there on my own. I'm like, and I go for it.
And with the plus luck, we'll give it to you. Throwing open the door, you can see that you're looking at the arch over the gate that has its rampart set up. The elite most of the soldiers are standing here. There's a ballista aiming right down the barrel, and you can see that there is a priestess on a litter who is holding two undulating serpents in her hands that glitter in the moonlight.
That's something. I let out a little whistle.
And as you do
I'm
so,
looking.
the
I'm
nearest
looking
soldier,
for.
the nearest soldier turns to you and says, "Quiet, page. This is a sanctified moment of victory."
Oh, quiet then. And they seem to be preoccupied. I'm walking past them towards
You
the.
see the gate control. It requires 2 people to operate. It is like a double crank, a heavy double crank that hauls the door open slowly and gradually.
All right. So the guy that just talked to me.
Yeah.
Did you hear? They're already on the other side of the gate. We need to open it to push them out. That's why I've been sent up here.
What? He screams at the top of his lungs and he yells over his shoulder, "Sir!" And he looks over the side of the wall, not down into the battle, but towards the city. And down below, people are milling the hell about trying to find you.
They're inside. We have to push them out. That's why I've been sent up.
A man
Come on,
looks
come
over
on.
and he
I
says,
go
"What
to
is
one of
all
the
that noise?"
handles.
"Sir, they're inside." Points over. This guy comes running over. "Oh my! You said we have orders to open the gate. Are you insane? Look at that thing."
We have to push them out.
He points over towards the oncoming war beast, and then another man says, "Quiet! The priest is..." "Sir, they're inside. We can't open the gate." There's chaos as they go back and forth, and then finally, this like higher ranking captain calls over, "Silence! Open the damn gate. The beast won't make it to the walls with all of our bolts trained on it." And he says, "Yes, sir. You," he points to you, "help me with this."
Yes, sir.
And as the 2 of you start to crank, Sloan pulls the trigger. There's a thin crack through the night sky. And you see that the priestess on her litter startles for a second. And she holds up a hand as one of her snakes is dead. She clutches it in her hand and looks over her shoulders in panic. You can see that folk on the wall are looking up to her. Her face is suddenly very pale and bloodless as she looks down at the snake and then has the other one hide swiftly in the folds of her robe as she holds it up. She whispers to it and blows on it. And you hear her say quite plainly, "No. Such ill omens. How did it die?" You can see her shedding tears over the snake, and the soldiers around her look shaken, if not outright terrified. From your position opening the gate, what do you want to do?
We need to run.
And are you going to run?
I'm finishing open the gate.
And as you do so, as you say, "We need to run," the other guy helping you open the gate looks like he has the same idea. He stops opening it and starts to bolt towards the gatehouse.
We have to finish opening the gate so they can get out.
"You finish it!" And as he says, the captain who tasked him over, "Soldier!" before coming over and starts to help you man the post and finish opening the gate. You see that the captain is looking terrified. His eyes are wide. He's sweating bullets. And he says, "Suddenly, enemies among us. The priestess's sacred animals dead. What is going on here?" And you hear a click as the winch stops turning. He says, "Page, flee. Warn everyone you can to flee. We need to mount a defense inside of the citadel." What do you want to do in response to what he says?
I will tell them, let's get out of here.
And he starts to bark orders to the soldiers to vacate the walls. The priestess is hurried off of her litter by a group of her acolytes and is rushed into the tower, still weeping and holding the snake in her hands. Sloan, after your one shot, the concentration and effort you have been expending are catching up to you.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Seriously catching up. You feel that your fingers are loosening slightly on your firearm and your vision is clouding.
I mean, I have to say at this point, there's not much else that I could do. The only thing that I would try to do, because I'm assuming actually consciousness is about ready to leave me. The thing that I would end up trying to do is to reweave my arms. I can always get another rifle.
Indeed.
I'm not worried about that. The only thing I'm trying to do is weave my arms into the ropes so that I can be basically hanging there as opposed to trampled by whatever's coming behind the beast. That's what I'm doing.
And as Sloane's consciousness leaves him, he is lashed underneath the rigging in an X shape, not unlike Lear's, upright at the front of the beast, directly mirrored to him.
Nice.
Aww.
Goroth, you have slain so many, and yet you feel yourself slowing, not from lack of energy, but from wounds building. You are covered in injuries.
Don't suppose Bloodlust is up yet.
You are lucky that it has a medium cooldown. You have it.
Well, then. Let's see. Probably after, impaling somebody with a trident, I'm gonna ram the other one through their throat, grab their head and rip it off as my performative display of hostility.
And as the blood flows over your face, there is an almighty crash. And for the third time this mission, Goroth is flung from his feet and goes hurtling off of the back of the warbeast. This is a far drop. But you have rigging below you. What do you want to do?
I don't think I have much but to try and grab for the rigging.
And as you clumsily grab, you go head over heels, swing, you feel like it, were it not for the fact that you have your bloodlust is healing you up, your wrist would be freaking broken from just being snapped inside of twisted rope. But you feel yourself trussed and hanging. And you see Sloan hanging not far away from you, upside down, completely unconscious.
Hey.
And it's at this point that over your shoulder you see that the gate is open. And your Enclave badge pings.
Cool.
Now, you do note that Sloan is unable to ping his own badge.
I think I'm also unable to ping my own badge at the moment.
You have to free your hand first.
Yeah. Now, this is an interesting point for Goroth here. If you read his backstory at all, a big shame of his family is that his father let the kill go, abandoned the hunt to save someone, which was a bad thing in his culture.
I did see that.
But seems like the hunt is over, and so it would be acceptable to go save someone. So, since we've succeeded this day, Batha to chop myself out of the rigging.
Yep. I will say, you would definitely not have your Spatha on you, but there would be other dead bodies hanging in the rigging.
And I could pull one out.
Yeah, you could pull your Spatha out from them. And after hacking your way free, what are you going to do?
Make my way over to Sloan.
And as you reach him, hanging completely limp, with his arms and legs laced through, his badge pinging.
We did it! The hunt is over!
There's no response.
Unfortunately, your death was not required this day. I'll punch his badge for him.
And then your own?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And lastly, Trezden. you feel an almighty crunch. The gatehouse shivers. You can see that ballistas had fired into the beast, but had hit it in the side, not enough to stop it from reaching the gate. And you're cranking it open. You hadn't, the click that you felt, it turns out, didn't bring the gate all the way open, but it had enough of a crack that the beast smashed its way through with its final headbutt. There is the pandemonium that is happening inside the city walls cannot be overstated, especially because other Searsine Horde members are now catching up with the beast that they have been trailing this entire time on the outside, starting to clamber past it to get in and fight their enemy. What would you like to do up here on the walls with soldiers fleeing around you?
Has mine pinged as well?
As you look down, your badge pings gently.
Oh, I can't just disappear yet. I have to at least make a nice proclamation. In this, using the wind to carry my voice, I'm just going to let everybody here know that Trezden sends his love as I bow to them and press the button.
And on that note, we will end the mission.
Cool. Thank you. That was great, guys.
Beautifully done.
That was a lot of fun.
Let us briefly, I know it's late for you guys. I apologize for keeping you up so late. I could not agree more with Lee in the chat. This was an elegant mission, which is funny considering how much you guys got thrown everywhere. But we had multiple backstories coming into play. We had like symbolism completely unintentionally arriving. I'm super freaking pleased with how this one went, and I hope you had fun as well. Briefly, do you guys have any questions for me about calls I made or about the plot?
No.
I thought you were about to squish us so many times. I'm like, how are we going to deal with this one? How are we going to deal with that one?
I had to make it achievable.
No, I thought it was exceptionally well done. I really enjoyed the story.
Thank you.
Your storytelling is also exceptional. Your attention to the details that are going on around us, and making sure that we're all doing things at the same time, yet not doing things at the same time. If that makes any sense, you're very good at that.
Right.
Saying,
I felt like.
okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, visually, it was very clear. I was never lost in the story.
Spatial awareness is amazing.
Excellent.
Right.
I'm so glad.
I really can't compliment you enough on that, because that was, I think the spatial awareness is exactly the way to describe it. I never felt like, wait a minute, what? It was every time you said, okay, now we're going back to whomever, I knew exactly what was going on. So the visual picture, the mental picture you painted in my head was excellent. I really great.
On a combat mission, that's one of the most important things you can do. Not to mention keeping up the time frame. Do you want to see my map?
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed you kept glancing down.
There's the platform in the middle. There's the bigger platform. There's the sections you took out, and there's the head. That was
nice.
It's great.
I just had to, Detour, you've conduited plenty, so you could see me like double checking to make sure I had everyone in space where they needed to be when they needed to be. I'm so pleased you guys like this one. From my perspective, given that half the classes in Enclave, or at least a third of them, are purely non-combat, and another one is like really on the fence of combat or not, it's rare that I have a pure hyper combat group. And so when I got one, I'm like, we got to do a pure combat mission. This is too good of an opportunity. And
right out the gate.
Combat. I wanted combat from start to finish, and you guys went for the ride fantastically. To briefly go over your characters, just hit them one by one. Goroth, what a fun guy. First of all, it's so fun seeing the Berserker in action.
Yeah, first for me. A lot of fun.
Works as intended. That's exactly what it should be doing. I think that his iteration of Berserkerhood is very appropriate. I loved how you leaned into the Führer, especially when it turned bad. The key with Führer is believably not hurting your allies too bad. That's the mini game.
Yeah, backhand. That's reasonable.
You did a good job at that. Yeah, exactly. Beautifully done. I was almost certain Sloan would have to burn a standoff there, but he didn't have to. He had a really clever way around it. Your warp spasms were fantastic. I thought that your kinetic combat versus a monster in particular was exceptional. Your fight versus the snake, my favorite bit of you during that whole thing. I
Nice.
loved that bit. And also, even though the Berserker on its face doesn't look like it has much utility, it does. And you did find its utility and were able to contribute well. I'd say, like, this was not like a mission for big characterization, but even then we got a little bit out of Goroth. And I'm interested in seeing him on less combat missions so we can see that part of him develop.
Yeah, a little more of that development.
Yep. You also pushed every stat you had to the extreme. Like this was the most vigor and reflex intensive mission I have ever hosted in Advent Edition. It was so cool to see you guys push those stats so far.
Nice.
Next, Sloan. It's my second time seeing Sloan. This kind of couldn't be more different of a situation besides the fact that he was shooting people.
It was very different, yeah.
Yeah. I adore him. What a great character. He is believable. He is quippy. You do a great job of keeping the group linked. You're checking in on people. You're doing the gunslinger thing that you need to do of being an Overwatch position that helps coordinate your allies as well as being a playmaker and a damage dealer.
He was definitely the glue. He was the glue that kept us.
He was the glue, and you did a beautiful job of that. Your standoffs were perfect. Could not have asked for better. That first round of flechettes, I was like, they might actually just lose the mission here if they're not ready for it. But you guys found the answer and you did it. Because I was like, okay, if Trezden has an opportunity to have a proper wind up, then the flechettes are like largely invalidated. But he hadn't got it quite up at that point, and so really beautifully done. Your shootouts were perfect. Your uses of your stats were fantastic. The hanging on the rigging was amazing. What a beautifully cinematic moment. And when you took the shot, I was like, I really can't freaking justify him just killing the priestess.
No, that's perfect. I mean, even if you would have given me you distract her for a second because the shot ricochets off the corner of the post, that would have been fine for me.
Exactly. But because of what Trezden had been doing with sowing discord, I was like, you know what? This helps me feel like I'm not just giving you the kill, but also it's kind of contributing to Trezden's plan. And your setup for it was so cool. It had to do something. You know what I mean? When someone does something that cool, it has to do something. So I love it.
I appreciate it.
And your kinetics are excellent. The way you're able to use your skill and your reflex when you level, you're leveling off of this mission. So make sure you put a plus into reflex because you use the hell out of that stat.
I will.
Your ability to flip about effectively without not just being for show. Like you were productively using agility, positioning yourself beautifully. Your avoidance of Goroth when he was in Fura was awesome. I am so enamored with Sloan. Literally, the only negative note I have is that you didn't use Trick Shot. But like Trick Shot would have been a way to lock in a much more likely hit on the priestess, by the way, because since you get to pitch the bounce.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah,
so it's like secret accuracy. You know what I mean?
Yes. It didn't even cross my mind.
Totally fine. That's literally the one play you made in the entire mission I didn't agree with. The one. And so
I appreciate it.
Beautifully done. Really, really, really well played. And lastly, Trezden. Jay, I've been wanting to have you on a mission forever, and you didn't disappoint.
I've been wanting to play this forever.
He is so fun. Like, he's goofy but productive. And like I loved how you helped set up your team for like fun payoffs in terms of what they were doing and what they were attempting. Your reactions were hilarious. Like literally when you saw Goroth after the Fura and you were like, I was like, oh, perfect. That seals the scene for me because it's funny and it leads into what you've been setting up beforehand. Great uses of all of your abilities. Really, really good. When you started going out in front of the Warbeast at the end, I was like, if he out of the blues, this is actually a really, really, really good play. And you did. You hit the door and you went through.
Not do what I thought it was going to do, but it still worked.
Yeah, I didn't think you were thinking about that, but that's why I said, oh, this is going to be interesting. Because when you did the out of the blue, I was like, yeah, it conducts to the biggest source of metal nearby, and that's going to be that in this case. I think the character is very fun. He's super enjoyable, just in general. I thought your quips were genuinely funny, and that's not something I say about everyone. So quips, it's just so easy to come up with something lame on the spot, right? But you actually came up with fun ones. And I thought that for someone who has only ever played a 15-minute demo before, your game sense was fantastic. You had a great idea of where you had to be at a given time and how you could productively contribute to the mission. Your first storm brewing, when you first started doing it, I was like, there's no freaking way that like wind is going to get through the earthworks. But then you said something that made me think, oh, wow, he could really put like a thunderclap in here. And I mentioned that, and you're like, yeah, actually, we're going to go with that as well. And so I just felt like you had a great game plan in your mind while still being pretty adaptable. And I think that's very commendable. That's pretty much what you need to do with Enclave.
Right. Yeah.
And if I may briefly hear from you guys, Detour, do you have any final thoughts, including about your fellows as a conduit? I'd be very interested in hearing a quick assessment from you. It'd be super cool to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I think echoing a lot of what we've heard, but I think this is the first hyper combat mission I've been in with you, at least. Did one sort of with Reese recently. But yeah, so that was really cool and exciting to see. First time with the Berserker. That was a lot of fun. I really liked my warp spasm to chase the snake things up in the sky. So cool. That was fun. Awesome. And yeah, definitely loved Sloan's whole backstory of how he was pulling off the under the beast, like hanging upside down shot. That was sick. Absolutely loved it. So yeah, great stuff.
What a cinematic mission. Beautifully
yeah.
cinematic. That does so well.
Yeah.
And Jim, any final thoughts from you?
No, I mean, the stuff that we've already talked about, I really enjoyed playing with you guys. I really appreciate you having me along on this mission. I thought that the three strengths of the three characters played really well with each other. Yeah. And even though you said that it was a hyper combat mission, the thing that it was a hyper combat mission, but it wasn't a hyper combat mission because it wasn't just kill as many things as you can.
Precisely.
There were things we had to protect in the course of it. Everybody I thought did really well at that. The combat went to a certain point, and then Trezden had to step in with his skills in order to do things that were beyond the reach of actual combat, which was great. I just thought there was stuff for all of us to do to our different strengths. And to me, that doesn't equate to hyper combat. That just just a great mission that has combat in it.
Indeed.
So I thought this was almost a perfectly run combat mission because there was on-site strategy involved, not, I guess, more tactics involved but there was also an overarching arc of strategy as well. So I don't want you to limit it to say this was hyper combat. It was more than that. And it was one of the most fun things I've done as an RPG for a long time.
That's wonderful to hear. I'm so glad. And you're correct. There is such a thing as an Enclave mission that is literally the whole mission is one really hard fight. They're very rare, typically because Enclave classes just don't do that,
Right, right.
And so you're correct, though, that this was nothing but hyper combat. I was trying to go for a mission that did exactly what you said, and the fact that you think it accomplished that, I'm very pleased to hear. When I got your focus words, I knew exactly what I wanted the second I read them. Because, I mean, it's pretty obvious what the focus words led to, right? Bravado, Stampede, Distance, you know what was going on there, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's when I see a set of focus words and I immediately get an idea, it's usually a good sign. Not always, but usually.
Well, and just to kind of wrap it up again, it's one of those situations where we sat down I got to sit down and play with people where things clicked right off the bat in terms of play style from the people that we were with, as well as their attitude toward the game.
Yeah.
Which you don't always get when you sit down with people you don't know and start to play.
Oh, of course.
And to me, everything clicked really, really quickly. We all kind of stepped into the roles that we had set up for ourselves, and it just rolled from there. I can't thank you enough for having me along on this one. It was great.
Of course, Jim. It's always great to have you in. And Jay, any final thoughts from you?
So to kind of echo what Jim said, I felt like we've been playing together for years, the way we just gelled right at the beginning. Like, we all handled everything very differently, but we were able to cover so much ground, so many different problems as a team. Like this was a movie for me the entire time. Like
Yeah,
I
exactly.
saw this whole thing play out right up to the end credits. You know, can't wait to watch next week's episode. It was that kind of a thing. Like I felt like the characters, our personalities, well, the characters we were playing fit our characters really, really well. I know it's because the characters are created by us, but I've made characters for games before and I never felt really comfortable in them. So this was like I felt really comfortable as this character with you guys as your characters, you know? When we first walked
Yeah.
in right at the beginning to introduce ourselves, I'm like, you don't really know yet. Like, is this gonna be like just complete mess or what? But
Yeah.
I think the pressure of this mission, like the
Yes.
severity right off the bat, whether it's the combat or anything else, like it kind of like made us all focus together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
the best part was we were all able to stay in character through it.
Right.
A lot of
Absolutely.
games when you get into heavy combat, role play gets pushed aside. Like we're busy just making sure we do this and that, but we were still character first,
Right.
and
Oh,
character still won the day. You know?
and what you guys are describing about the way like you fall into things in Enclave and how role play is not thrown out with combat, that that is not that's nothing to do with me. That's just the way the game works, right? The game itself incentivizes that, and it's because you guys get it and you bring it to that. That's the only reason it is that it makes it that special, right? And I say oftentimes that pretty much anyone can learn to play Enclave quite well, and many people just click with it. You guys click with it all very, very well. And that always elevates a session, no matter what else is brought to it. And so I thank you tremendously for playing. The very final thing is name of the mission. Lee has posted some fantastic names in chat. I think that of these, the one that immediately grabs my eye is something like what he said with Footfalls like thunder, although I might change it to thundering footfalls.
I think I think that's good.
Excellent. And so in
Yep.
that case, on your character sheets, you can put thundering footfalls in your mission records. Thank you very much for the names, Lee. Those were excellent. And Jim, Sloan will have leveled up from this, so if you need any help with that, feel free to post in the server or to me directly. I really love the character and look forward to seeing him more, as I do with all the characters on this mission. And with that, we come
Yeah,
to
I
the
love
end.
playing him.
Oh, yeah?
I'll get in touch with you about how to go about the upgrade on him.
Absolutely. No problem with me. And on that, we will call this to a conclusion. In the same order that you introduce yourselves way back, Detour, Jim, and Jay, feel free to say your goodbyes and I'll sign us off.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for playing, everybody. It was a blast. Thanks to Robbie for hosting and to my fellow players for being excellent partners.
Yeah, all I can do is echo that. Robbie, thanks so much for setting this up. This is a really fun evening. Guys, if you ever need a gunslinger, keep Sloan in mind. I'll be more than happy to join you in a game in the future if you need someone along that can swing a 6-gun.
I'll echo everyone else here. Yeah, I had a great time, and I hope that Trezden gets to jump into the fray with you guys again. I'd like to bring him back. So anytime there's something available, let me know. And if I'm available, like I said, I'll be happy to bring my winning smile to the table.
I hope to see you guys in missions on the server. Looking for Game Channel is where we do that, and hopefully we'll get to ping you on some of those sometime. And if not, I'll contact you about these actual plays. Make sure, again, everyone watching, I'll be posting links to these guys' work in the description. The Old Warlock is my single favorite YouTube channel about tabletop role-playing games. Fae is my single favorite tabletop RPG that is not my own, and Scrapbots is my single favorite card battling game that I have ever played in my life. And so all of these guys can attest tremendously to their work and to their quality as players and people. But with all that said, my name has been Robbie Howell, and ciao for now.